and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, the John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
So yesterday morning, the rain is coming down, and all I could think of was, as it was pouring, was this would have been a terrible day for fans to have to sit in the stands at Lincoln Financial Field and watch an NFC Championship game. And then I went, what are you, stupid? It would have been amazing anyway if fans got to sit in Lincoln Financial Field for an NFC Championship game. But it wasn't meant to be. And it was weird because at around 2:30 in the afternoon or something, I'm doing some stuff at the house, and Christina goes, you don't even seem excited for the games. I said, I'm not excited for the games. Why would I be excited for the games? This year ended in disaster. It's like I'm still salty about it, not feeling good about it. It's not something that makes me excited to watch some other team go to the Super Bowl. And as I watched yesterday, I said I came up with a few things that just sort of stuck with me. And honestly, they're gonna haunt me as far as what happened. I watched the Kansas City Chiefs find their way to another Super Bowl. And all I could think of is the Monday night before Thanksgiving, the Eagles beat the Chiefs on their home field. You all remember Nick Sirianni celebrating with the fans on the way out. And the Chiefs had to beat Miami in the wild card round, who the Eagles beat. They had to beat Buffalo in the divisional playoffs, who the Eagles beat. And, of course, then a team the Eagles beat is in the Super Bowl. And then I have to see the 49ers and what they did and how they beat the Eagles' backsides at 10-1 and really set the season into a tailspin that I don't believe they ever recovered from. And it's weird because as I look at it, I say San Francisco lost 3 games in a row to end October, pulled themselves out of a nosedive, and then on Christmas night suffered a humiliating defeat on their home field to the eventual number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens, who lost yesterday. And every time San Francisco was punched in the mouth, they found a way to get themselves up off the mat and come back. The Chiefs also losing a humiliating game on Christmas Day to the Raiders. Terrible game to the Raiders on their home field. And they managed to lose 4 home games this year. Start out 6-1, sitting at 9-6 on Christmas night. They managed to dig themselves out of it, win 5 in a row, and they're going to another Super Bowl. There's a clutch gene. There's a clean up the mess gene. There's a pull yourself out of a nosedive gene. And that is what I am hoping. I am hoping the Eagles will be able to find in themselves as they get ready to head towards the 2024 season. With a new offensive coordinator to join their defensive coordinator. But all I could think of yesterday, Bob, was what might have been and what could have been. And how other teams manage to face adversity and get up, dust themselves off, and find a way to play for a championship.
Huh.
And the Eagles
talk about different ways of looking at games. That's cool. You were thinking of that.
It was making me sad, though.
The only thought of the Eagles that came into my mind yesterday was my sister, who's a Baltimore Ravens fan, texted me, I can't believe how stupid this team is playing today, and me saying to her, welcome to the last 7 weeks of Philadelphia Eagles football. Like I'm looking at those teams yesterday, and I if I ever thought of the Eagles, it was only that, my God, they're not close to any of these teams. Not even close. They don't run as hard. They don't play as well. They don't execute as well. They don't have the talent. They don't have the coaching. Yeah, that's all I put to it.
Even though the Monday before Thanksgiving, they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City?
Yeah, you know what?
And beat the team. Beat 2 of the teams that it took them to beat to go to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it reminded me. Really? No, didn't remind me anything of the team that left the lasting impression in my head, which was the last 7 weeks of the season.
So do you think that Eagles team's the real team?
No, I think that's the Eagles team that finished the season. No, they were a good football team at one point this year. We can say, oh, yeah, but with the 10-1s that
Sure.
we talked about endlessly. But they were good, and then they were horribly bad.
Horribly bad.
And the last 7 games is really what matters. You can go 10-1 and turn out the way they did. And no, but yeah, I honest to God, the only time the Eagles came into my mind at all yesterday was, God, look how far off they are from these teams with the way they played the last 7 weeks of the season.
Were you excited at all, Pat, to watch any football yesterday, or is it like I was a bitter Betty yesterday?
Yeah, I wasn't excited. No. First of all, the matchups are gross. I was excited in the moment to watch Detroit do what they were doing, but then they just choked. So that was kind of cool because I didn't think there was a chance in hell that Detroit would win that game. So they jump out to that lead, and that was cool. But this Super Bowl matchup sucks. The matchups would have sucked if it was Baltimore. I don't find that team all that enjoyable to watch. No, those games were So no, I was not
like
looking forward
watching
to it.
them?
No, not really. I've never liked watching the AFC North ever.
Huh.
I look at the AFC North as a division that's built on defense and ground and pound, and it's old school smash mouth football, and I don't really find it exciting. Even though Lamar is incredible, I don't find the AFC North, any team in the AFC North. The Bengals are the only team that I liked watching because of Burrow and the passing attack, but for the most part, the other 3 teams I feel like are always built on defense and run game, and I know that's ridiculous to say because Lamar Jackson's going to win MVP, and he was
terrible
he's
yesterday.
a dual threat, yeah, but
He was terrible.
that's the thing is like Lamar in big games kind of chokes. No, I those matchups didn't do anything for me. I figured that it would end up being San Fran versus the Chiefs.
Huh. I thought the Ravens were going to win yesterday. That was my pick.
I thought the Ravens were going to win also.
Yeah, I had fun watching the game. I liked watching the games. I thought they were interesting, close. What Detroit did, getting out in front early, was cool. Here's the other comparison I did have. Dan Campbell constantly going for it on 4th down. And look, we've talked about this endlessly before, mostly me. There's a fine line between aggressive and stupid.
He was stupid. He was stupid.
You can be aggressive and smart, too. That wasn't smart. It just wasn't smart.
You got a chance to go up 3 scores in the second half of the NFC title game on the road, and you don't kick a field goal to go up by 3 scores?
And
that's stupid.
It's more than that to me, even, John. Like, you can look at the analytics of, now it's 3 scores, like you said, and all that, even though that's not big analytics. But mine is also momentum. You give the ball back. That is such a huge momentum thing. Okay, kicking a field goal, is that exciting? Is that sexy? No, but guess what? It just maintains a level of normalcy. Like, okay, so far we're dominating this game. Let's just add a little to it. Let's just keep it going. You don't get it. I mean, that's even more than a 7-point swing or 10-point swing if you want to go that way when San Fran goes down and scores. It's just a momentum thing that you don't want to give 70,000 fans, the other team. You don't want to give that up. And I just didn't. I wish to God we were on the air when it was happening because I felt like saying, I don't agree with this a little bit.
Dan Campbell would be getting skewered in this town today if he managed that football game the way he did last night. I think he worried about style over substance. This is our MO, man. We go for it. We're tough. Just go up by 3 scores, dude. Just go up by 3 scores. I don't think they lose that game if they do. I don't think they lose the game if they do. I think it changes the entire desperation of the San Francisco offense, too. I don't think San Francisco's is willing to just keep it on the ground when you're down 3 scores because then you start worrying about the clock. Then you start worrying about time management more. When you're down 2 scores, you get more into your offense. And, boy, that was the second half adjustments by San Francisco were brilliant. Were absolute. Steve Wilkes on the defensive side takes them out of zone defense, which they tend to play as zone principles most of the time, and started to unleash the hounds a little bit, and then let their secondary play, more of a, man-to-man style, and then to watch what happened with the offense was just they never abandon the run. Now they've got a ultimate weapon type of guy, but they never abandon the run.
It's not like you're getting 3-4 yards out of your running back. You're getting 8 and 9.
Yes,
every time, and he's that good in Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. I wouldn't go as far to say they wouldn't have lost. It would have been a lot harder for San Fran to come back. I think.
I think
and
San Fran
momentum too. Like I really do believe that. like it's a momentum thing where
Mental?
you're sitting there and you're down, 21 points and it goes to say 24. Your shoulders just go, another hill to climb. But you hold them and it's like, all right, here we go. That's huge to me. That you can't let a team get momentum in their home field when you've dominated the way Detroit was. You gave them a lifeline to me. I totally disagreed with the decision making there.
Hey, Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. You can visit nopaybryant.com and get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. So, also, I was a bitter Betty Pat because I thought this was our birthright to have a Super Bowl in Vegas. I thought it just would have been a perfect way to end it.
Would have been cool. I did think about that yesterday.
See,
what could have been?
Now, Pat, you and I did look at what could have been, and Bob just ignored what could have been. You were more interested in.
I didn't. I really
was
didn't.
so bitter. I was so bitter yesterday. I was a little bitch boy.
I wonder if I would have been more bitter, or even bitter, if they were close.
You mean if they had lost last week?
Yeah, because, I'm texting with my sister, and as you guys know, they live in Baltimore, huge Ravens fans and all. And how hard is it for them today compared to us after the Eagles lost to Tampa Bay? I did think of that. I wondered, do you get more upset the closer you are? That Eagles team was the worst team in football at the end of the year. I said it before that Tampa game. I'll say it now. I had no expectations for them. Would you rather lose with no expectations or lose with, an AFC championship game thinking, all right, we're at home. We're going to go to the Super Bowl?
I got to tell you, it would be harder to come in today if we had lost a home game to go to the Super Bowl.
Probably, right?
I think it'd be harder because it was as if I think the last games prepared us for what was going to happen in Tampa, even though, Pat, you and I both thought they would survive that Tampa game ugly.
Yeah.
And then it would fall apart. They did not. Spoiler alert. They did not. It didn't happen. They couldn't figure it out. So, hey, we're on to the 2024 season. And as we look forward to the 2024 season, and I do look forward to it now, because now it's over. There's nothing that can be done. It's finished. It's done. I am really, really looking forward to the fact that I believe there's one thing I always look at. When you show me a roster move, someone says, did you like the trade? Did you like the signing? I look at who's being replaced, and I say, okay, that's an upgrade. There is zero question, zero argument that, and it's not a hard bar to get over, that both coordinator hires are an upgrade for the Eagles. Whether it's the new one that is not officially signed yet with Kell Moore or the decision to go with Vic Fangio, there is no argument to be made that they haven't. In fact, I'll consider it a vast improvement on both sides of the ball over what they had last year.
You could be defensive coordinator tomorrow, and it would be a vast improvement, John.
I'd be too
they were
conservative.
Horrible. The defense was absolutely horrible the last 7-8 games of the season. Not in position, not able to tackle, no scheme that fit the talent or lack of that they had. It was awful. So, yeah, bring in a Vic Fangio, bring in anybody. You're going to be better, I think. Kell Moore, there's good numbers there in Dallas, obviously. Dak Prescott had some great seasons under him. They ranked first a couple of times under him. So, it's interesting. I was shocked that he's only 34 years old. I mean, we've all seen Kell Moore and known his name.
Been around, right? It was the youngest offensive coordinator they get the time at 28.
Yeah.
I believe is when he took over.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And, with Kell Moore, all the talk, he runs a lot of motion and all that stuff. Okay, cool. I'm all about trying something different if this talent is suited to what he wants to do. You can tell me about schemes and, he does this, he does that. I don't give a crap if you don't have a talent base that can do that. I want a coach that comes in and says, I don't know. I don't know if I can blitz the way I used to or if I can run RPOs or if I can motion the way I used to because I haven't seen my talent yet. Let me look at the talent first, and then I'll let you know what I have.
Well, we have like 3 different conflicting sets of opinions on the Kell Moore hire, which is where we're going to start today. And we're going to talk about the new offensive coordinator. There's great enthusiasm. There's more guarded enthusiasm. There's more of a twinge of negativity. We'll tell you who's got which opinion coming up if you stick around. It's the John Kincade Show we get your Monday started here. Make sure you've downloaded that 97.5 The Fanatic app. We welcome our YouTube crew into the audience this morning here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Sixers fans, this Saturday, the Sixers will be taking on the Nets, and I will be hanging out at Time Out Sports Bar and Restaurant in downtown Skipback, all thanks to my friends at Corona. You can enjoy $4 Coronas, all of the Corona brands, and you can get hype over the fact that the Sixers are about to take it to the Brooklyn Nets. Look, we've done this for the Phillies. We did it for now the Sixers, and we have a pretty good record. If you come on out and hang out for these Sixers watch parties, we usually don't end up coming out with the L, and you probably won't either because we'll be giving out some great prizes, all thanks to Corona, including tickets to an upcoming Sixers game. So you could walk in to Time Out Sports Bar and Restaurant in downtown Skipback, and you could walk out with tickets to an upcoming game. It's a pretty good deal. So come on out this Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. It's with me. It's with Corona. We've got prizes to give away, and we're going to be watching Joel Embiid and company do their thing. Hopefully come out with a victory. As I said, we have a really good record with these things. So it's all thanks to Corona. It's the 97.5 The Fanatics Sixers pregame party at Timeout, located in Skipback. Corona is the official partner of the Philadelphia 76ers, the official cerveza. All the details, just go to the events tab on 975thefanatic.com. Hopefully, we will see you this Saturday.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Now.
On Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We've got a Monday on The Fanatic. Monday morning, Bradford White water heaters are here for the pro. They bring you the 6 o'clock hour of the John Kincade Show every single day of the week, and we appreciate Bradford White. And I was trying to look at the positives, the positive thought, as Bob always tries to say, put your feet on the ground, come up with a positive thought to get you out of bed. And I really was interested in the Kell Moore hire. I just was absolutely from Friday afternoon, and there was some of that buzz going around that maybe Cliff Kingsbury could end up being the guy here, which I absolutely was dreading. Did not want Cliff Kingsbury, did not want his four-play offense here, did not think that was the way to go. So I was excited when I heard there was an alternative. There's a lot to like about Kell Moore. In 5 years as an offensive coordinator, Kell Moore is always in the top 10 in motion, if you're interested in that, as Bob was talking about. And yes, they have the players to be able to execute a motion offense. They are always one of the best teams at picking up the blitz. His offenses always understand, in coordination with his offensive line coach, how to pick up the blitz. He's good at developing a quarterback. He helped Dak Prescott become a much better passer. And in fact, one of the most prolific passers in the NFL. And Dak, even this year when the Chargers were getting ready to play the Cowboys, Dak talked about the fact that how much football he learned from working every single day with a guy like Kell Moore. I like that too. His offense with RPO, excellent. His RPO success rate as far as yardage, much, much better than a Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson offense, averaging around 2.5 more yards per play on average every time he runs an RPO. And yards after the catch, that might be the biggest thing of all. His offenses, he is the best offensive coordinator at yards after the catch in his tenure in 5 years. So there's some things to smile about. He creates windows for wide receivers to be really, really happy with what they can do. He's got to be frothing at the mouth to find ways for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to be able to catch footballs next year in wide open spaces. Now, there's some things that maybe people won't like as much, and we'll get into some of them too. But overall, Bob, it's a huge upgrade to go from Nick Sirianni's offense to go to a Kell Moore offense. It is a huge upgrade.
I hope so. I don't know. You know, the Eagles were really good at scoring points. The Eagles, we made this argument all year long. Like, okay, you're going to complain about Brian Johnson, but the numbers aren't far off from what they were a year before. And the year before, they were one of the top offenses in the league, and we didn't have any complaints about it. As far as coming in and running an offense that's really cool in motion, you said, yeah, they have the players to do that. Who are the players that do that? What does that mean? To me, it means it all goes on Jalen Hurts. Why do you put players in motion? So that the quarterback can read defenses. So that the quarterback can see if they're going to play zone or man. So that way, that's what helps the quarterback. Sure. I mean, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, they can run all over the place. That's great. But
and the tight end. He moves the tight end around a lot.
But if your quarterback can't read it and isn't doing well there, that's your problem. So, again, to me, are you bringing in a system because you've run it and it's worked sometimes for you before? Or are you looking at your talent and saying, okay, this is what we need to do? That's what I want to hear. That's all I ever want to hear from any kind of coach in any sport. I don't know what I'm going to run here yet. I got to take a look at my talent.
Do you, Pat, you're worried about another issue when it comes to Kell Moore that potentially gives you a little bit of a hesitancy?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily gives me a hesitancy. I need to get over it.
Okay.
It's a me problem here.
It's a big boy problem?
No, it's a little boy problem. It's a childish, moronic problem. He's got so much Cowboy stank on him still. Not necessarily the Cowboy stank, but like this guy just, I see him and I'm just grossed out by the overhype machine that was the national media surrounding Kell Moore for 4 years of the boy wonder and and all that. And it's like, all right, but the guy's gotten fired now twice. So there's clearly something that didn't lend towards him becoming the youngest head coach in NFL history, which is, what Chris Collinsworth would love to make him out to be every time the Cowboys run Sunday Night Football. Why was he fired twice? Why was he let go? No. Now I understand.
What was that noise?
Well, I was trying to cut him off before he answered the question that I know the answer to. When Brandon Staley gets fired, it opens the door for him to leave. I get that. Still, he was fired twice. Why were you fired twice? Why was your running game not great with Austin Eckler? Like, what went wrong that led you to leave Dallas? All the Cowboys stank and the boy wonder crap aside, like, this isn't the be-all, end-all, the greatest offensive mind we've ever seen. On the flip side, I go, yeah, no, it can't be worse, though. To your point. Like, it literally can't be worse.
No, it can't.
I guess it literally could be worse. But looking at it from what the Eagles have in talent, I don't think it can be worse. Anything's an upgrade at this point. You pretty much brought any OC in here, I would have went like, yeah, all right, it's could be better.
Well, two things were, why did he get fired in Dallas? Because Mike McCarthy was trying to save his job. So Mike McCarthy was going to lose his job, and Mike McCarthy said, well, I'm going to start calling the plays. I'm going to take over the offense. Even though the offense in Dallas was the best in the NFL in creating points 2 of the 4 years that Kell Moore ran it.
So why did
because that's how Mike McCarthy saved his job.
I'm asking, why was it then that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones allowed that to happen if the offense was so great?
Because if
I'm sitting there going, oh, my offense is, why would I move on from this guy? The offense is way better.
Because Mike McCarthy was the guy they were sticking with, and he said, well, this is how I'm going to change things up, because I'm going to make sure that there's going to be a more reliance on the running game. It was all about the running game and the balance. Where was the big issue?
Yeah, and that's carried over right to L.A.
But in L.A., too, and this is a good point on his behalf, the Chargers wouldn't let him interview with anybody until they knew they had Jim Harbaugh.
That's interesting.
Because if they didn't get Jim Harbaugh, there were a lot of people expected he was going to be elevated to head coach, that he would be their second choice if they didn't get Harbaugh. So they didn't let him interview. So teams couldn't talk to Kellen Moore and try to hire him as even as a coordinator or a head coach until L.A. managed to let him out of there.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's bad.
Right, you didn't say that, yeah.
No, I've skewed negative with my comments with him, but a lot of it though has to do with me. Like, I need to just look inward and move on from my disdain.
I get the Cowboys stank though.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's look, for 4 years as Eagles fans, we heard that this guy was like the greatest offensive mind the game's ever had since like the Air Coryell offense, and it's like, all right, yeah, whatever, but they haven't won anything. So I enjoyed watching Kellen Moore struggle with the Cowboys. And now I have to just wrap my head around the fact that he is going to make the offense and the Eagles better. I mean, I'd be shocked if he didn't.
I never thought of the Cowboys losing because of their offense.
No, I guess not.
Like when they lost, I never thought it was the Cowboys' offense.
I like to blame him, though.
What's that?
I like to blame him, though. Yeah.
It's kind of that, like, loser mentality. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean, like, sometimes teams that can't get over the hump in the postseason or fail at the end of the regular season, it's as much mental as it is physical. And I think that whole Cowboys organization right now, because that's all they hear about once they get to playoffs. Yeah, they can get to the playoffs, but watch the December and January collapse of them. I do think it's a real huge mental bar that they just can't get over right now.
Yeah, we saw that with the Ravens yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, when there was a disconnect reportedly between Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni that's been reported, I'm just thinking of this way, too, with Kellen Moore, that when Jalen Hurts sits down to talk offense with Kellen Moore, they can share thoughts on, yeah, remember what it was like to be a big-time Division I college football quarterback? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that, too. Remember those games playing in front of like 100,000 people? He's not referencing his brother's high school coaching career to tell a story to Jalen Hurts. He's saying to Jalen Hurts, hey, you know what it's like to be an NFL quarterback? Yeah, I know what it's like because I was an NFL quarterback. Yeah. They can relate. There's much more relatability between a guy who has done it, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, than somebody who hasn't. And that is something, relatability right there. You could discuss, I played the position. I played the position in a big-time spot in college football like you did. I played in the NFL. I understand what it's like. Even though he was a Doug Peterson type, career as a backup, he still can talk to him and go, hey, I can relate to you. I don't have to.
I guess. I don't know.
Really?
I don't. That doesn't matter to me at all.
No, but you don't think player to player that does? Like you don't
they
think
share
player
a
to player?
story one day and say like, yeah, I remember I played against Oklahoma one time, or I played against Nebraska one time. Okay.
No, but you don't think that matters though?
No,
I think it matters a little bit.
I played quarterback. I was a quarterback in the NFL. You were too. I'm not telling you about my brother's high school game.
Well, I think you're overselling that one also. I mean,
I hear about it all the time.
He brings it up once in a while that his brother's a high school coach. Okay, I mean, so what? They brought up Jalen Hurts brought up that Brian Johnson they've known since 4 years old. Who cares?
And how did that work out?
It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with the other. I'm just saying, like these stories, all that. No, if you're a good coach and you're coaching a good system, I don't care if you were a former Cub Scout. As long as you can coach me to be the best player I can be. I don't know.
That didn't happen.
I never thought.
Look,
Doug Collins. I don't want to. I shouldn't have even said the name. I knew a coach in the NBA that was the number 1 overall pick. That was should have won a gold medal. That was prominent on a stage. That was one of the world's biggest sports moment ever. Do you think that related to Drew Holiday when he was coaching him? No. It didn't. You could say, hey, Drew, he hit 2 foul shots against the Russians with 1 second to go. It should have won the USA a gold medal. Then he became the number 1 overall pick. I'm looking and I see words just going right out the ears of these young kids. Like, no,
these guys are 8 years apart. We're not talking about Doug Collins and Drew Holiday. We're talking about
I don't think it's that much relatable. I just don't. Like, you want to share a story? Great. I don't. I think especially Jalen Hurts with the personality he seems to have. Share a story like that? Oh, cool. Yeah, I had a college day like that also. Okay, what are we doing to make this team better? Yeah, I don't think it's a huge thing. Because if you're talking about relationships and relatability, well then why didn't Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts work? Because they've been best friends forever. It was what I mean? Like
it may have been with Nick Sirianni. I think the disconnect's with Nick Sirianni. I think that's where.
Why don't you think it was with Brian Johnson also?
No, it may have been in the fact that Nick Sirianni was making Brian Johnson run his offense, and then Johnson didn't do enough to fight for what maybe Jalen wanted to do. But there was obviously a problem going on, and I absolutely believe that a guy who's like Doug Peterson can relate to an NFL quarterback better than a guy who never even sniffed it. I think it's understanding what they go through, understand the pressure of that big-time college football.
Yeah, I don't think guys get to that position unless they understand it. And it doesn't have to be in your background or anything like that. John Tortorella, did he play professional hockey? Did he win a Stanley Cup? Did he? You know what I mean? I just don't think, and I'm not putting that, well, I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's a huge factor. I don't. I just think the coaching is the coaching. If they want to share a story about what they did in college or when he was a very subpar NFL quarterback, okay. I don't think that has anything to do with the performance of a Jalen Hurts moving forward.
Do you think if when the team's performing poorly, it has something to do with it? Like, what I mean is, does the view of the team all of a sudden skew negative because the team is performing poorly, where they go, well, what do you expect? Like, this guy never played pro ball at a high level.
High school and college thing.
Okay. I'm just posing the question.
I know you are. These guys are pros, and they're all at their level because they're pros. And when you bring in a new coordinator and you bring in all that, yeah, I don't think they look and say, oh, wow, he didn't win any high school championships. Oh, man, he barely played in college. No, I think it's like, hey, what's your scheme? How can we get better? Let's move forward. If there's a connection there other places, okay, so be it. Like 9 times out of 10, if you ask players the backgrounds of their coaches and all that, I would say they'd be very sketchy at best. Like, oh, where'd he grow up? Oh, he went there? Oh, Nick, take 10 Eagles right now. Where did Nick Sirianni go to college? What Division III powerhouse did he go to?
Was it Stony Brook?
Mount Union.
Mount Union? Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, like, out of 10 players who would know that. I don't. Yeah,
that's because nobody pays attention to those schools. Nobody knows
attention to what the coaches did in the past. They just want to know what they're doing for them now.
You don't think that players understand this guy played in the league? This guy played in the league.
They can
this
hear
guy
it.
didn't. Like that.
So I look at Kell Moore's stats. wow, he was a really subpar quarterback in the league. I can relate to him. That's cool. No, they're professionals in the league themselves. They care about themselves getting better. How can you help me as a coach? They're not looking at his background going, oh, wow, he completed 8 passes one time in the first half against Buffalo. I'm going to listen to him more.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Well,
it's more towards your side, Bobby.
Yeah,
now that I think about it,
just trust me. Of the thousands of players I talk to, backgrounds like that, no.
I think not having a background at all is a big difference between having a accomplished background.
What's Bill Belichick's background as a player?
Well, Bill Belichick is a anomaly.
What's Andy Reid's background as a player? Like, all I'm saying is we're just casual fans.
Don't talk about Big Red today.
I'm not putting them down.
Yeah.
I'm saying
you have no respect for the BYU legend.
You can be a great coach. You don't have to have the background of, he was an all-pro.
Yeah. But he's not a great coach.
Who's not a great coach?
Nick Sirianni.
I'm not saying he is.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying players don't look at him and say, oh, you know what? He's a better coach because he threw 8 completions in the first half against Buffalo. I just don't. It doesn't matter.
But I'm hearing Bill Belichick. I'm hearing the idea is that Nick Sirianni doesn't have the clout to be able to, first of all, say, hey, just trust me because I know what I'm doing.
Well, then why is he a head coach?
That's what we've been asking.
Why isn't? Give me background on anybody. I'm just saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm telling you, the players that I've talked to 1,000 times over the years, if I were to ask them to give their coach's background of playing, hardly any of them know it. They don't care. They want to know, are you playing me? How are you playing me? What's the offense or defense you're designing? Let's go.
Where do you fall on this if you want to jump in? 610-632-0975. If you have a thought on this, I will always take somebody who's been there, done that over not, thinking that that's the way to go. And I don't see I guess I'm just going to step out there. I don't see Nick Sirianni becoming Andy Reid, Bill Belichick.
Well, for a lot of the coaches,
I don't think anybody does.
Exactly.
In that parameter, a lot of the coaches are screwed because if you're not the greatest of all time, it's never going to be good enough.
Sure.
Like you can take Kell Moore and go, well, he played in the league, but to Bob's point, he wasn't very good in the league. If he was very good in the league, he wouldn't be an offensive coordinator at 28. He'd be still in the league, hitting his prime, but he decided to go into coaching. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, same thing. I remember watching him getting cut on Hard Knocks by Mike Tannenbaum, who said, yeah, when we traded a 7th-round pick for you, we thought we were going to get a lot more from you. Well, now he's a head coach in the league.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, it was one of the funniest moments of Hard Knocks.
Wait a minute. I forgot completely about that.
Yeah, when we traded a 7th-round pick for it, we thought we were going to get a hell of a lot more. So we got to cut you. Harbaugh, I mean, he was a decent quarterback in the league, but he wasn't a world beater. I think the majority of coaches that did end up playing in the NFL, there's a reason why they're coaches. Dan Campbell was a journeyman. He was okay.
A journeyman.
But for the most part, you're rarely going to get the really, really good players turn coaches. I mean, Mike Vrabel was actually probably the best right now that I can think of.
And I can't believe he doesn't have a job, by the way.
Yeah, that's surprising. But for the most part, a lot of the coaches that are former players weren't very good players, and that's why they're good coaches. They just sat on the bench and watched.
It's a new staff. That I will put it there, too, is that I would always take he understands his success rate. 5 years is a really nice track record. And 5 years of consistent performance, consistently putting up. The one thing I'm going to take a major issue with is I don't want to get back to an offense that is just pass happy that the run becomes an afterthought. And that has been a critique. That Kellen Moore gets lost in the passing tree in that, that's where he gets lost, where they lose sight of the run. And I don't want to sit through that. I'm hoping that won't be an issue. But it's been an issue that fans complain about in both places.
Yeah, I just want to see an offense that keeps defenses off balance, that you don't know what they're doing, that it's not predictable. Just difference. We just need difference now, and hopefully that's something Kellen Moore can bring into the team.
It should be a big difference for this Eagles offense, and for guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they would hear amazing things. Again, go read. You can read what the Dallas players all were saying about playing under Moore and his offense when they got ready to play this past October, and the difference he made. It's going to be important, though, that he creates the connection with Jalen Hurts that he had with Dak Prescott. Because he took Dak Prescott from Dak was 3rd-round pick, Pat, I think?
Fourth, yeah.
4th-round pick to being one of the best passers every single year in the NFL. Kell Moore helped to create that, and Dak gives him so much credit for it, that this was the guy who taught me how to watch film, taught me how to do that. And then, by the way, that seems to be one of the complaints about the new defensive coordinator, is that they didn't watch. He made them watch too much film in Miami. Made some of the players that were publicly disgruntled, too much film study. He made us could drill over and over again looking at film study. It's like I don't know. I don't consider that a bad thing.
I don't either. I don't know. I mean, do you have to read the players? Yeah. Do they get more out of film than actually being on the field? Are they better off you teaching them on the field as opposed to teaching them in the classroom? I don't know. That's the great thing about coaching. You have to figure that out. You got to figure that out. Who do I have in the classroom that just doesn't get it there, but I got to take on the field? And what guys sit there and just grasp it all when you're watching film? That's what I love about coaching, figuring all that stuff out.
Yeah, we've all signed up for the 3-hour lecture in college, and we sat there and the 3-hour mark. You're going, really? You're keeping us for the full 3 hours?
The full 3? Are you crazy?
I thought this could be like an hour and 45 there, Chief. 3 hours? This is rough. So, yeah, it's that balance for sure.
How'd you like that Sixers lineup Saturday night? Bob better have some explanations for us. John Kincade Show, 97.5, The Fanatic. I love the BetParks Casino and Sportsbook app. I love the fact that you can get in on
Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We have First Friday coming up on Friday. We've still got some spots for you. You want to get in? Go to 97.5thefanatic.com and get yourself registered. We'll have you in our live studio audience on Friday morning. We'll feed you. We'll hopefully entertain you. We'll tell you about the guest list coming up a little bit later. But if you want to get in, grab them now while you still have the opportunity. So talk about what sucked. It sucked not seeing our team in the NFC Championship game yesterday. But what also sucked, Saturday I sat down to watch the 76ers. I was so excited for a Sixers 5:30. And Andrew brought it up on middays during the week a little bit, saying that's a perfect time on a Saturday. 5:30, after church, there's the Sixers right there. You get something to eat, enjoy the game. And then I saw that lineup. Bobby, what's going on?
First of all,
great game, wasn't it?
It was wild.
Oh, it was fun.
I didn't expect it. I didn't expect anything of that.
Fun,
when I saw
fun
who wasn't
game.
playing.
Yeah, that's what I took out of it. It was a fun game. And what was it? Sixers were up down 2 right before halftime, and I was going down to my old where I used to live to play poker with a group of friends on Saturday night.
Okay.
So I said to Donna, I'll give you the Sixers in 13.5. And she's like, what? They're only down 2. I said, yeah, trust me. I'll give you the Sixers in 13.5. I thought, yeah, it's cool. You have a new lineup. You go out there with the backups, and you play well in the first half. All that's great. I expected them just to get their doors blown off in the second half, and probably many did. But they just didn't. They just kind of hung. So, yeah, I had the disappointment in my columns about that a little bit later. But what do you get out of that game? Do you get something out? And, Pat, I was thinking of you when this game went on. And we see the starting lineup announced, and no Embiid and no Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton, no Tobias Harris. I mean, 4 of your probable 5 starters are out. So what do you get out of a game like that? Whatever they needed to get out or could have, they did. And that means, like, wow, did B-Ball Paul kind of turn a corner, play against one of the best guys in the league, and have a night like that of 30 and 13, I think it was. And more than that, just played hard and maybe got his confidence a little bit more and maybe proved to anybody that was thinking about, is this really the guy that can back up Joel Embiid? Maybe he gets that. And then, you look at a Marcus Morris who shows he can still score. And, he said to me the other night, he's like, I was a starter last year. So coming off the bench and stuff like that, and people looking at me as like, oh, can he help this team out a little bit? He's like, I've been a starter for most of my 13 years in this league. I can still play. Maybe that's a showcase for him a little bit too. Other guys in the lineup that played well. Maybe you extracted something out of that that's going to help you long term that can overcome the disappointment a little bit. But I was just like you, John. You hear it. I was watching. What was the game before? The Knicks and somebody. The Knicks were home against somebody.
We were at
whatever.
the Flyers. So.
Okay, and you hear it announced at the end of that game. And you're like, come on. It did. It does it ruin a 5:30 Saturday afternoon game? Yeah, it does disappoint. And it sucked.
Are you shocked that do you totally take the Sixers at face value that it had nothing to do with it being Denver because they have literally sat a healthy Joel Embiid before in Denver?
No. Give me reasons why they should have sat him. Because what?
No, I mean, they've sat him before. They sat him 3 years in a row. They haven't played him in Denver. And there's been some reason that he's had the night off in Denver. And then 20 minutes before the game, you find out he's not playing.
All right, so if
I'm
you're
just saying,
no, I know you are.
Yeah.
So I'll play the other side. So conspiracy theorists, why would they not play? Like, if that's the case, why would they not?
We already have the give-up lineup already.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again.
We already have the give-up lineup already. With the players we're missing, we're not expecting to go into Denver and win this game anyway. So if there was a conspiracy theory to it, give them another night's rest. But it's I don't know. I won't make any judgment as far as whether I know or not. Nick Nurse got up there. It took him, honestly, explaining why Embiid didn't play, it sounded like a Nick Sirianni answer at a press conference. like he was trying to. It was much more words, many more words to explain what was going on than Nick Nurse usually uses. It just seemed like it was an uncomfortable answer. And
he might not have agreed. He might not have liked it.
You know, the medical
staff comes home and says, you know what? Do you want Joe going at 85, 90% with that knee in this kind of climate? More than you. I don't think they went to him and said, you know what, Coach? The knee has a little bit of thing, and he's going against Jokic. You don't want to do that tonight. I don't think that came into play a little bit.
You don't think this? Do you think the surrounding cast could have? We're not playing.
That's a good point by you. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point by you.
Joel may try to do too much.
Well,
because it's national TV, he loves to show out in big games. He's got a bunch of guys out. Pat, did you have any apprehension?
Well, it sucked. For sure. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, my time's freed up, I guess, now. But what sucks about it is just the matchup, because you circle that one on your calendar of like marquee game. I want to see those two battle against each other. And Jokic said as much after the game. You know, he's best for basketball, having Joel Embiid healthy. So I didn't have necessarily a problem with what they did. If they, in pregame warmups, think that he can't go, then it's probably best to sit him. Because I've seen it before where he goes on national TV against the Rockets and balls out, and next thing you know, he's out for 3 weeks with a meniscus tear because, you know, he probably shouldn't have been in that situation. So I've seen it go both ways. I've seen him be fine. I've seen him get injured. I don't want him injured anymore. The narrative that's being portrayed by people in Denver that he's scared of Jokic. He cooks Jokic every single time they play each other.
He just cooked him a week and a half ago.
He's not
I have
scared
a
of
column
Jokic.
about that coming up.
Not at all. Not in the slightest. It's just bad for basketball that you have a game where you could have the two best big men in the world go against each other, and it's taken from us because of injury again. But I don't have a problem with them sitting him. It just sucks because you were looking forward to that one.
We always have a problem with them sitting him.
Well,
like we always want to see him play. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We do, but you can't have it both ways. You can't want him healthy for the playoffs and then get mad when he sits because one has to do with the other. You
really?
know? Yeah. I mean,
like,
he can't play 70-something games. He's going to have to sit at some point. His body the big man body is not built for an 80-game season.
And we all know what it's like up there. We look at players robotic, but if you've ever been to Denver, and God, I'm just talking about going out and doing my jogging, walking, it is real. Like you feel it after a couple of blocks, like, oh man, should he be used to it, all that stuff? If there's a tinge of anything, and maybe this season went into it, I don't know. I haven't asked anybody down there. Maybe they went into it and said, Joe, you won your MVP, all right, this year. Oh, no, I don't mind missing more games. It'll take me out of the MVP if it lends me to be healthier at the end of the season. If that's the case study that you medical team want to have, more cautious than not, and it may cost me an MVP, feel free doing it. I've won the MVP. I want to win a championship. I don't know. I don't know. You hear of guys going 80, 85%, their body healthy, they're mostly going. Maybe they have in their medical decisions this year that, hey, if Joel's anything below 90, he's not going.
Like he broke his face 2 years ago. I mean, he broke the orbital bone, I guess it was, and everything. I mean, that has nothing to do with sitting out games in January and February.
No, but
it's not that you get elbowed in the face, you get elbowed in the face.
Sure, but if you're going out on a basketball court tired and worn down, you are far more susceptible. Any sport, you are far more susceptible to injury than you are at any other time if you're going out there feeling 100%.
Well, they're at the halfway point. He's missed, I believe, 14 games. I think 14 I think it was. I thought he missed 10. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at the exact.
Well, but it goes and look.
I don't know how tired he'd be.
Yeah, the broken face thing I'll give you. I'm more worried about like the ligaments and stuff, and that might go to your point, John, of is he trying to overcompensate for things because his body's a little broken down? And also, just we've seen it before where come playoff time, even when I don't want to say he's healthy because he's never healthy, but you reach like games 5, 6, and 7, and his body starts to break down. He starts to take horrible shots. He doesn't have the legs. It seems like the last couple of seasons, Bob, you've talked about the fact that he's shooting short because he doesn't have the legs. Is it conditioning? Is it just the wear and tear of a full season, at least, or his season? I don't know. I have a problem with them sitting him for a little bit.
Do you believe
that game I didn't like.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
But I didn't like it as a fan. I liked it as a guy who's seen them struggle to get past the second round because he's never healthy. So while I understood it, I don't like it. I mean, selfishly, I want that game. But
I don't like opening the door for the teams behind you in the standings too. I mean, they've now opened the Knicks are on a rampage. You've opened the door too, where you were comfortably in the 3 spot, and now this little like blip in the road just opens up Indiana, Cleveland, and the Knicks right behind you. I don't know if anybody doesn't think it doesn't matter. Home court doesn't matter. Just go out there and play your game, but.
I don't think it's that you're going into that. I mean, it's an 82-game season, and you've played 44. So you got plenty of
11,
basketball.
by the way. He's missed 11.
Yeah. You got plenty of basketball left. I don't know. Looking long-term, short-term. Long-term is it's going to play out that they're going to win probably around 55 games. Where does that get you as far as standings go? I don't know. Probably a 2nd, 3rd, 4th seed, probably right within there. Maybe that's the way they're going about it. Maybe with a few weeks left in the season, you say, ooh, we got to hold off Indianapolis here. Can't let them get the 3rd seed from us and things change then. I don't know, but little too early to look at standings for me so far.
Well, and they might not care about standings because they've been the number 1 seed, the number 3 seed, the number 4 seed. It doesn't matter. They can't get past the second round. So they might be looking at it like, yeah, okay, ideally we'd like to be the highest seed. But in the grand scheme of things, we've been the highest seed before, and it hasn't mattered. So we're not going to worry about that in a game against Denver, against a really good Denver team. You'd rather have them, I guess, in the gimme game against Portland. I don't know. I don't know the mindset there, but I do believe what they said. They didn't like what they saw, and they held. I don't think there was this grand conspiracy, and I think that's what some Denver people are trying to make it out to be.
Oh, they were all over it.
I mean, Mike. I saw. I don't know if it's accurate, but I saw a quote from Mike Malone that said like the NBA needs to look into it, but that might have been fake because I read it on Facebook and you can't.
I think it was fake.
Yeah, you can't believe everything you read on Facebook.
I got to tell you, Jokic impressed me after the game, where they continually were asking about Embiid, and he said, "Hold on a second. I think I'd rather talk about Paul Reed, who just went for 30 points and 13 rebounds and showed that he's a really good player, because that's the guy I had to battle against tonight." And he wasn't being a jerk about it. He was being honest, like, hey. Give Paul Reed his credit, because if I'd have played against Embiid tonight, those are the numbers Embiid would have put up, 30 and 13. His backup just did that. Let's talk about him a little bit.
I was impressed by that, too.
And love to Joel Embiid, too. He has such respect.
Oh,
the respect between Jokic and Embiid is huge.
Oh, yeah.
And that tells you something else.
I think Embiid has earned the place in the NBA, and I've seen a few players like this, and usually it is the bigger stars, that they'll come at you during 40 or 48 minutes and want to kick your ass and will do anything to do it. And then afterwards, you give them a hug and you respect it. I think they've earned that, and he's earned that, I should say, among pretty much everybody in the NBA.
We'll have more on the Sixers in Denver on Saturday coming up a little bit later on in the show. Was it the Flyers on Saturday?
So, how'd you enjoy your time?
It's 6 minutes to go in the first period, and it's 0-0. And I'm saying to Christina, they're playing really well.
We got this one.
This Bruins team. No, I was saying, though, this Bruins team, man, like, to play them this tight, this is good. This is promising. And then it's 4-0 within the next 6 minutes of play. And then 5-0 in the first minute of the second period. It was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was just a bad one. Hey, they ride a 5-game losing streak into the All-Star break after a 5-game winning streak. And there is a bit of a Carter Hart hangover going on.
I don't know necessarily if it's him. I mean, the loss of Owen Tippett, I feel like, is bigger than the loss of Carter Hart. You take which, by the way, he signed an extension, so good for him. But
8-year, right?
Yeah.
And a very reasonable number.
Yeah, that contract's going to look better as the years go on and go on in the cap raises, which we're getting to the point where now the cap will actually raise a decent bit after COVID. But yeah, you take your number one goal scorer out, and I mean,
there's a mental wound right now going on with this team.
I don't mean to disparage your thought with the Carter Hart thing, because I do think that probably is weighing on a couple of the members of the team, but. You also have to remember Boston's one of the best teams in the league. They are loaded.
Oh my gosh, they're good. They're really good. How they lost last year in the first round, I'll never know. They're a really talented club.
Yeah,
this is playing playoff hockey. That was the thing.
Yeah, you don't want to look at sports ever and say losses, it doesn't matter. Wins, it doesn't matter. And Pat and I have kind of been looking at the Flyers like that a little bit more than you have, John. Like it doesn't. To Danny Briere and I heard some people say, like I was out playing poker with guys this weekend, and they're like, well, maybe this is a reality check. Like they'll really see who they are now. And I was thinking in my mind, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, no, they know who they are. And, yeah, this is part of what they are.
5-game winning streak, 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, we can talk to Tortorella all we want about, wow, look at the improvement of this team. And I know that's why I said I can't wait to interview him again. I'm sure in the back of his mind he's like, it doesn't matter, man. 5 wins, 5 losses, losing streaks, winning streaks. That ain't what this season is about. It's just getting some out of it, figuring out who's what, and moving forward. And the Owen Tippett signing, all right, they figured him out, right? That's okay, let's put a check here. We figured him out. He's a keeper. Who else did they sign? Poling or whatever?
Yeah, Ryan Poling.
Yeah, they signed
2
him
years?
this 2 years. Yeah.
Right.
You sign him, you say, okay, that's a guy that we like.
We'll go forward with him.
Yeah, I like that there's not a false sense of goodness. And, maybe fans needed this to say, oh, yeah, that's right. That's not what this season is about anyway. So, it's all part of what a rebuild is.
Hey, the 7 a.m. hour brought to you by the all-new Bet Parks app. I say all new because it's always changing. They've always got new things for you. They're the official winning partner of your Philadelphia 76ers. It's a sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, and Maryland if you are so inclined. So Super Bowl opens up 1-point favorites, San Francisco.
Oh, that's it? I thought I saw something higher.
1, and now it's not. It could have moved, but it was 1 is what it opened. So there'll be movement on that. I will find the game entertaining. I'm going to find it frustrating as hell because of the fact that the AFC route, the Eagles handled. The NFC route, I'm just going to look at Kansas City. I'm going to look at San Francisco in the Super Bowl and just say that's the team that tore their hearts out and left them with a mental wound that never healed. That I'm going to look at that 49ers team and say, man, they did to the Eagles what they did to the Lions last night, but the Lions cooperated with poor coaching decisions. Terrible decisions.
Yeah, it's a shame because we went through it here in Philly. It's almost like Philadelphia, you put your arm around Detroit and say, we know what you're feeling. Because we have a head coach that we glorified, and past 2 head coaches, that we've glorified as being, oh, man, they're gutsy. They're courageous. They do things that are out of the box, and that's what makes them so good. And then when they do it at times that you shouldn't do it, you say, what in the holy hell are you doing? I love aggressiveness. That's great. Love it. But, man, you got to balance it with being smart also. And I'm talking about a player. You have a big lead and you have the ball in your hands. Are you going aggressively to the or a lead? Are you going aggressively to the basket late in the game where you have fear of committing an offensive foul? No, you got to be smart. Can't take away aggressiveness, but you have to add in smart. And I don't think Dan Campbell married the two very well yesterday.
I don't understand that you would not make the decision to kick a field goal to go up by 3 scores in the second half of a game. You're on the road, NFC Championship game. You're a heavy underdog, and you're having this incredible run. It's like, no, this is who we are. This is our attitude. It's like watching WWE. He's buying into the act a little bit too much. There comes a point where the shtick, the act, the brand that he's built has to be said, okay, this just doesn't make sense.
Well,
here's where you go up 3 scores in the second half. And I don't care what analytics tells you. Analytics will tell you go up by 3 scores in the second half. You win. I would bet you if you're up by 3 scores in the second half, you win 80% of the time. I bet you that it's 20% of the time maybe that you ever lose a game if you're up by 3 scores in the second half.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far to say act and shtick and stuff like that. Maybe
it's his brand.
Maybe that's what he truly believes in. And if you do, then I commend you for saying that's who I am and all. But look, at certain times you just have to change your ways a little bit. And I commend people that don't. We've known people all through life, and not just sports, that they are who they are and they're going to stick to it. And you have to commend them sometimes. Other times you have to say, yeah, but. I would have loved somebody try to get in Dan Campbell's ear yesterday and say, dude, I know who you are. We love who you are. Let's be smart here. Not saying you're dumb, but now's not the time to be the ultra aggressive.
I
It
think
cost
everybody's
him.
going to hear it today. I think he's going to hear
Yeah,
it for the next 6
Probably.
months.
Yeah, in that situation, he's probably sitting there going, everything works so far. Probably feeling himself a little bit.
Right, and we know
start
it.
sniffing himself.
Yeah,
Right?
We know it. We felt it here with
But
Nick
why-
Sirianni,
I don't
right,
blame
Pat?
him. I mean, you're sitting there watching the game going like, damn, Detroit is really taking it to him.
At some
They
point,
can't
logic
miss.
has to
I
invade your
hear
mind.
you. In that moment, I think your emotions get the best of you, and you start getting amped up, and you're like, all right, let's put a death nail in their coffin, and it doesn't end up working out. And I don't know if even if we're having this conversation if Detroit ends up winning the game, but
No,
they end up
I think
losing.
it'd be. I think he'd maybe if it had worked. If it ended up working out, they'd say, okay, that guy's a riverboat gambler like nobody else.
Not even necessarily that particular call, but I think initially or eventually, if they ended up winning the game, we're just talking about the craziness of Detroit getting to the Super Bowl. I mentioned to Bob during the break, if you think that it's bad being a Philadelphia sports fan with everything that's happened to us, imagine waking up being a diehard Lions fan today.
Yeah, but
you blew a 17-point lead to get to the Super Bowl. The first time in your lifetime they were going to be there. You blew a 17-point lead on the road. Like, you had that game. I can't really complain today as a Philadelphia sports fan. It could be worse.
I think that they will, Pat, be looking at that. I have a feeling that they're waking up, despite the disappointment today, when the anger wears off. They're going to wake up like we woke up last year after the Super Bowl saying, oh, man, the future's so damn bright.
See, I disagree. I think that logic comes in an hour.
I said the same thing to him.
Yeah, I think that comes in a week from now.
Oh,
I don't think
it'll
it
be
happens
like
today
Wednesday.
because today it is.
Oh, master.
Here we go again. We're never gonna win. I mean, it was easier to get past last year's Super Bowl because we saw 2018. But if we didn't see 2018 Super Bowl, that would have been a rough one.
Bob says there's 3 ways that he wants to let us describe the happenings of the Eagles hiring their new coordinators. But you can only pick one. Find out which one you pick next. John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic.
Hey, guys, does the hiring of a
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Thanks for hanging out with us. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, and our Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. Get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. Doesn't look like we'll need it this week. It looks like it's finally going to stop raining here in Seattle.
Yeah, when? Like, when the hell are we going to see that big yellow thing that comes up in the sky every day around 7 o'clock? Because I haven't seen it in I don't know how long. I'm getting tired of it.
I'm tired of it.
Pat, do something. Will you please?
Not really anything I can do, Bobby.
I'm
I don't
tired
have
of
that
it.
power.
Come on there.
But yeah, I'm getting sick of. Seems like every day it's just overcast or.
You don't see
rain.
the sun at all.
No.
I think there was a stat the other day. I'm not sure if it was Adam Joseph had it or somebody. We've seen one sunset. We had seen one sunset in like 13 days.
Is that right?
Because of the storm cover, cloud cover, snow, everything that we've been dealing with. So hopefully everybody is not going to get the winter blues and hanging out with us. Hopefully there's a turning of the page. Bob, you said that there were three different ways to describe the Eagles' hirings of their new coordinators, which is obviously the first step in trying to get the bad taste out of their mouth about what happened.
Yeah, so where do you go on this? And you got to be honest about it. Any change is going to be good when a team lost 6 or 7. Okay, pretty much you're going to say, okay, you had to do this. But look deeper into it and give me your honest opinions. The hiring of Kell Moore as offensive coordinator, good, bad, or eh? And I don't mean like let's. You guys know me. I'm a wait and see type of person. I don't jump to, different things. And if I usually do, I'm not really correct a lot. But when you look at the hirings of these, starting with Kell Moore, unquestionably good, unquestionably bad, or just questionable?
Unquestionably good, because he's been better than a good offensive coordinator. He's been a very good offensive coordinator. His offenses have been consistently, statistically across the board, top 10, top 8, top 5, top 3. I mean, he's a guy who consistently produces. So there's no way I could look at it as anything but, if you're saying good is the bar, absolutely.
Unquestionably good, Pat?
Yes, despite everything I said to start the show. And a lot of those are just me problems that I need to get over, a.k.a., the Cowboys stank and the overhyped boy wonder stuff. Yeah, it's an unquestionably good hire. We've seen him have a proven track record of going out there and having a high-powered offense and having an offense that's heavy in the passing attack. What does this team have? They have 2 dominant wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They have one of the better tight ends in football in Dallas Goedert. And they have Jalen Hurts, who a year ago was an MVP candidate. So that kind of lends towards the strength of the team, I feel like. He struggled in the run game, but then again, the Eagles don't really prioritize running backs anyway. Case in point, they let Miles Sanders walk, and then they traded, a third-day draft pick for DeAndre Swift, and they might do the same thing for this season. There's a chance they don't bring DeAndre Swift back. So you could have the third straight year with another running back. So they don't really prioritize that his weakness anyway. Yeah, it's an unquestionably good hire. I can't think it'll be worse than what I saw last year.
John, I think I already know your answer to this one, so I'll start with Pat. Unquestionably good, unquestionably bad, or let's wait and see on the defensive coaching hiring of Vic Fangio?
Unquestionably good. But
your first word.
I see. I lean towards it's a mix of unquestionably good and wait and see. Like I have my reservations, but it's even more so of it cannot be worse. Like all offense we go can't be worse, but I think one of you guys brought up, points wise they were there, and if you're just looking at the numbers and stuff, I mean it's very similar to last year, but we know it wasn't that because last year the team was taking the fourth quarter off most of the time. The defense, however, looked like they were completely lost. The defense, I actually go, no, they literally can't be worse. They were one of the worst teams in football in terms of defensive scheme, so it's got to be better. There's only one way to go for that defense, and it's up.
I think the way you used good, the fact that you used good made it really easy. That makes it a really easy answer. Because, again, you're talking about two very accomplished guys at stepping in, too. Is that there was a number about Fangio the other day about when he takes over a defense, when he steps into a defense, the improvement that they show in year one and year two over the person that had the defense before. So he has a history of being a fixer type of person, that he can come in here and he can fix things. I'm just looking for competency on the defensive side of the ball. I want a core competency that was not there this year. And for whatever reason, whether it was communication, whether it was a disconnect with the players, which, by the way, I'm tired of hearing about. Like the disconnect. There was a disconnect between the offense coordinator and Jalen Hurts. There's a disconnect between the defensive players and Matt Patricia. There was a disconnect. At some point, professionalism needs to take over, and it didn't in that locker room.
No, it didn't, and it seemed to be. You want to take coaches at their word. If I heard one more time, and if I hear one more time about getting the players in the right positions, if you say it 1,000 times, why the hell aren't you doing it?
Yes.
And look, age-old question that I brought up a long time ago: Are you teaching them to be in positions that they're not supposed to be in on you, or are you expecting them to get to positions that you want them to be in, but they can't do it on them? So I don't know what it was. You bring up a good word, John, competent when it comes to the defense. Maybe this offense, if Kell Moore can get this offense rolling and Pat laying out the talent that he did earlier, if this offense gets rolling to the capacity that seems like they should, competent might be good enough for a defense in this town.
Now, I don't know that the number, I believe the number was 41 of the 70 sacks last year came with the Eagles up 2 scores. So of their 70 sacks, 41, I believe, came when they were up 2 scores. If the offense can help out the defense, that would certainly be a big help.
Yeah, and Tyrone brought that up endlessly during the season, and rightfully so, that you're looking for sacks like you had last year, but they can't pin their ears back the way they did. And then it got later in the season, and they got a couple of leads that were okay, and they still couldn't get to the quarterback. And there was something, whether it was schematically, talent-wise, whatever it was, that they couldn't get there. That's something that Vic Fangio is going to have to work on, too. Somebody wrote it this week, and I apologize not remembering who, but his biggest problem to fix here, problem I use lately, is probably your interior young guys in Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. You have to get them righted.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge challenge. I look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs were 11-6. They're in the Super Bowl. The Eagles were 11-6. They were an abject failure of a season. And one of the things that is interesting is the Eagles' offense scored 61 more points than the Chiefs. So over the course of a season, 61 more points, not bad. I mean, that's a nice number. The Eagles' defense gave up 134 more points. Steve Spagnuolo versus what the Eagles had.
Yeah, Steve has just done an incredible job there, and it's cool when you hear.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, it's cool when you hear head coaches talk about how much assistants, coordinators mean to a football team, because we all know they're the underlying to all the talk will be about Andy Reid this coming weeks, and rightfully so. But the job that Steve Spagnuolo did there, and that Andy Reid acknowledged yesterday after the game, that was pretty cool. And we were talking top defensive coordinators of all time the other day.
The Spags start to get in that conversation.
His name is getting thrown in there for certain.
It's a confusing thing. You heard Bob's question. I would love to hear from somebody who hates the Fangio hire, or who hates the Kell Moore hire even more. I'd love to hear why.
Get him.
Yeah, let's not go hate.
No, but I mean, doesn't like the hire. I'm not happy with the hires. They should have gone somewhere else, because I got to tell you, I've heard nothing but bad about if they had gone with Cliff Kingsbury. Nothing but bad stuff about him. And even our friend Jody, who joins us from Phoenix when the Eagles are getting ready to play Arizona, it's just like, nice guy, terrible coach. like terrible. And the people were like, no, I want that offense. No, I don't. I didn't want a 4-play offense, a 4-formation offense that just they run everything out of 4 formation. That's it. And you just never know. He's going to switch it up from there. I wanted something different. But if you don't like the Kell Moore hire or you don't like the Vic Fangio hire, I'd love to hear it at 610-632-0975. What your issue is with the hire, because it's okay to have apprehension. It's okay to not trust that maybe they're hiring the right guy this time around because they gave you Sean Desai and gave you a offense that didn't work last year when they decided to go with Brian Johnson. So if you don't trust the Eagles brass to hire assistants this year, I can understand it. I don't think that's outrageous if you're questioning it, but I'm going to just choose. I'm going to be more optimistic about it, though.
Did you get the 2 best guys that were out there?
Available? Yes, I do believe you did. I think you did as far as guys you could get, unless you were getting a head coaching candidate. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Were you getting you could have maybe gotten a better candidate if you were hiring a head coach.
Yeah.
But coordinator-wise, I'll tell you that, what's it, Johnson in Detroit? The offensive coordinator?
Okay.
He's freaking amazing. I'll tell you this. His offense is absolutely amazing to watch. I love it.
The vast difference between the teams that played yesterday and what we saw the Eagles finish the season, night and day doesn't even do it justice. I mean, it was the schemes, the speed, the way, the confidence, everything about both sides of the ball. My God, the Eagles weren't in the same planet as any of those teams at the end of the season. Not even close. It was fun. It makes me appreciate football even more when you see it like that. You know, we dive into Eagles. We watch every second of every play of the Eagles, and we watch as many other games as we can. But when you see the way the Eagles went down this year, and then you watch what really good teams are doing at the end of the year, my God, what a difference.
Like the Brian Johnson truthers, I just can't even understand how you can watch it and go, okay, yeah, that looks great. That looks great. Our offense looked anything like San Francisco's or Detroit's or Baltimore's for that matter. I mean, yesterday, watching Baltimore, I mean, even though I believe that it was not a good day for Lamar Jackson, I love the fact that I can watch my quarterback under center, shotgun, under center, constantly changing things up. Todd Monken does a fantastic job with that. Ron joins us on The Fanatic. Ron, good morning.
Good morning. I got to get one of those fancy names like Taxman or something. When you call in, but
Yeah, Ron the Taxman. You're good, yeah.
Ron the Taxman. There, I don't have to say South Jersey anymore. Anyway, my comment is, and I hope you guys are doing well, do players play or coaches coach? And if we have substandard players, does it matter who we hired? I know scheme's important, but
Did you think we had substandard players when they were 10-1? I did not.
No, I didn't think that we were as good as our record showed that we were. You're never as good as you are. You're never as bad as you are. I felt that we were playing well, but what was going to happen when we came to the top-tier teams in the NFC, and that's the guys we got to beat. Those are the guys that matter. But I get your point. At 10-1, everybody thought everything was rosy.
I mean,
but it turned out they weren't.
I mean, you'd beat the Chiefs. You'd beat the Bills.
Yes.
You beat Miami.
Yes.
I mean, it's like they had beaten
Agreed.
Dallas the first time. I mean, they had a nice resume of wins at that point, too. And I understood people being apprehensive because I was apprehensive, too. but I never saw what happened.
Taken.
You know?
No, I don't think anybody did. But so we move forward to this year, and everybody's a year older, and the guys who we really depend on, are they going to be there? That's the big question to me about. I mean, listen, Fangio great, Moore great, they're great, but
So that's the one word you would put, Ron, on the 2 hires? Great?
well, yeah, I think
Okay,
based
that's
on their
fine.
resumes, sure,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. But based on their resumes and their what they've done in their past, sure. But again, do we look back and see who have they had to coach? And I think that's going to be, as an Eagles fan, obviously, that's going to be what we have to see when everything starts shaking out on OTAs. Are the 2 Georgia kids, are they going to come back to life and, get through a season where they last the entire season.
And will
There's no
Nakobe
rotation
Dean
where they're not playing.
And will Nakobe Dean
Well,
even
he's-
play?
yeah,
You know?
Yeah, there was something on the weekend. I saw his Instagram post or something, and he's ready to go. And he's a guy that obviously we relied on. And years ago, that was our problem. We were always drafting to make up for a bad draft pick.
All right, Tax
All right,
man.
guys.
All right, we'll
All right,
see
Ron,
you.
thanks.
Take care, boys.
Take care, buddy.
Talk to you soon.
There he is. Yeah, talking to him soon, talking sports with him is one thing. Paying taxes is another. That's
Yeah.
another conversation. It's not nearly as fun as doing that one.
No.
Hey, Brian joins us. Brian, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great to
Brian.
have you on, buddy.
Hey, yeah, real quick, I'll jump on. I'm not really happy with either coordinator, but I'll jump on the one I know best first, and that'll be Kell Moore. I've watched him. Obviously, you know where I live, all right?
Sure.
I've watched him for 4 years run Dallas's offense, and it's no different than it is now. He was really good against average defenses where he had, a lot of weapons on offense. But when he came up to really tough defenses, because his offense was very, very predictable, very, very stagnant, he could not perform. That's why they got rid of him. He could put up some numbers. He can. But when it counts, like we're at the point now, the Philadelphia Eagles, we're at the point now that we're beyond just winning during the regular season.
No question.
All right, we're a postseason team. Okay?
All right, but here's what I'm going to say to you with I just don't understand, like, as far as with Kellen Moore. Could they not? I'm going to look. Well, let's look at some games as far as what Kellen Moore in Dallas before he left for Los Angeles. He's what's a really good defense? Cincinnati.
Sure.
Yeah, they won 20-17 in his last year there. The Rams, they won 22-10 against a very good defense there. Lost to the Eagles 26-17 in the first matchup last year when he had Cooper Rush as his quarterback. I'm looking against really good teams. Now, in the postseason, you could say he puts up 31 in a wild card game. They went to Tampa, put up 31 and won, and then lost at San Francisco 19-12. I don't know. In a game like that, I don't know that can be a Kellen Moore thing that they didn't show up in a big opportunity there. They lost 23-17 to the 49ers the year before that. The game's pretty close.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't make a play.
Yeah, exactly. You just, like I said, it's so much like a draft. It's just a crapshoot. How does this coach relate to this player? Do the numbers really mean anything? We've talked about Dak Prescott failures at the end of a season. Does that go directly to Kellen Moore also? Or is that totally on Dak Prescott? If you're going to look at the good of Kellen Moore, which was some positive numbers by Dak, you got to look at the bad of Dak and maybe put some of that on Kellen Moore also. I don't know. The relationship with Philadelphia, with this offense and Kellen Moore, we're only going to know after, 5-6 games or maybe even less than that. But, man, coaching, there's rarely that a coach is hired that I say, there it is. I thought Doc Rivers was the right choice for the Sixers. I was wrong. You just don't know. It's such a weird thing.
Hey, Kenneth joins us. Kenneth, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Just wanted to know, I had no problem with the hires. I think they got more showed that he can do a good job, experience better than what we had, more proven. But I'd like to say something. As an Eagles fan, I've seen something this year that it made me really disgusted. And the season turned at that point. And I'm going to tell you what, the halftime San Francisco game, when we met in the regular season, Philly fans booed them. We was down, I believe, 8 at that point, right?
Yes.
3 weeks prior, we were down. 10 points, I think, was each game, but the crowd booed so hard. It was like I felt the momentum, I felt like our team got gassed by not only the 49ers, but by our fan base.
Wow. I'm gonna say to you, Kenneth, that if that happens, you got the wrong players. I was at that San Francisco game and in the stands, and I can tell you they had every reason to boo. It was really lame, and the Eagles took the energy out of the building. The fans stayed in it. third quarter, fourth quarter, they were still in it till San Francisco ran, I think it was 6 consecutive touchdowns, something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles really looked really, really bad that day. They just, and if that caused them to go into a tailspin, then you got the wrong players. They're not tough enough to play here then.
Yeah, I think fan reaction is as important to players as what they're serving in the locker room to drink at halftime. I don't think it really much matters. Yeah, the players love when the fans are behind them and all. They understand when they boo and they hear it, but I don't think it. I think our last caller's taken it a little too far that was the season changer there.
The Pat's worried about something that's coming up February the 9th. Today, he's looking ahead. What is it, and how does it affect your favorite team? We'll find out next. John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic. I love the official winning partner of your Philadelphia 76ers, the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. It's absolutely amazing. The only online casino and sportsbook app that I recommend to you. Now, some of you are in
The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Well, the Cooney's column coming up on what went down Saturday with your Philadelphia 76ers in the 8 o'clock hour. But it's very strange for Pat to be worried about something coming up on February the 9th. Looking ahead, you're more living the moment guy, Pat. But when it comes to the Sixers, you're already a little concerned about something.
Not necessarily, I would say, concerned. I'm just wondering, with the trade deadline quickly approaching, because we're about a week and a half away, and there is a scenario out there that I think is a possibility that could play out, and it's a local guy coming back home.
Oh, no. I know now where you're going. I didn't know where you were going with this. Now I know.
Do you know who I'm talking about, Bobby?
Yeah.
And he's available.
So he will be available. I'm talking about Kyle Lowry.
Oh, no.
And it breaks my heart, by the way. Like, I went to high school with Kyle. I don't know why I'm calling him Kyle, because we didn't know each other. He was a senior. I was a freshman. But
He knows of you. I asked him before.
yeah,
He said big
I'm
fan
sure.
of yours.
Yeah,
He
I'm
was
sure.
like,
I'm sure he's dialed into to what I'm going.
He
Yeah, we're
looked
very
at me
tight.
and went, the chess guy, right?
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
yes.
The dominant chess player.
Lacrosse,
Right?
he remembered your lacrosse career.
Oh,
he
are you
said.
talking about like the worst goalie in the Catholic League? Yeah, I remember him.
I didn't bring that
Giving
up.
20
I only
You
goals.
brought
had,
the
you had the
chess.
balls to play, Pat.
Catholic League.
That's
is
one
what
way
I
to
would
put
say.
it. That's one way to put
That's
it.
the way
yes.
I'd look at it.
But no, it breaks my heart to sit here and not want Kyle Lowry on the Sixers, because for years I wanted Kyle Lowry on the Sixers. And thank God, by the way.
2 years ago, you wanted him.
The best deal that Daryl Morey never made was trading Tyrese Maxey for Kyle Lowry. But I think we can all agree that Kyle Lowry at this point is kind of a shell of himself of what he used to be. And I'd rather have this team have Pat Bev than Kyle Lowry. And I'm worried that they are going to trade Pat Bev in a deal and include him, and because he's an expiring contract, and then just go, okay, we can just bring in Kyle Lowry when he gets bought out, and we'll be all right. And I think that is a massive downgrade.
I don't think that. I'm hoping that Daryl Morey doesn't look at Kyle Lowry today and go, yeah. He's still got a lot left in the tank. I don't believe he does.
No, you're not getting Kyle Lowry on your team to help you, per se, on the basketball court. And, Pat, you bring up a good point that if they look at a deal and they have to unload salary and Pat Bev becomes one of them, that's probably the only scenario, Pat. That's a good pickup by you. But I don't think – I'll tell you what. I think Patrick Beverley cemented himself on this Sixers team on Saturday.
Take ball like Patrick Beverly.
I'm telling you.
And and I'm not talking about 17 points or 36 minutes or anything like that. Did you guys see the highlights of what he did during a timeout with Paul Reed, with calling teammates over?
Like when
He's
pumping them up, coaching them up.
He calls them over and he says, Paul, get over here real quick. He grabs two teammates. I don't even remember who they were. He said, look, when Murray comes off the pick and roll like this, I don't want you sitting back. He's like, look. All right, you're the picker. I want you jumping up on him like this. Here he comes off the pick. He's literally on an NBA court giving a pick and roll demonstration defensively to Paul Reed and how to do it and calling other players over. All right, you stand here, you're here, I'm here. Look, I'm you. I'm coming off here. I'm jumping that pick. I'm not coming off it. I'm jumping it. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I don't see it happening, Pat. I think he cemented. If you're getting a star to come in and you got to unload Patrick Beverley, totally understand.
It's kind of like Steph Curry at that point.
I don't. Yeah,
like you don't
I
want
don't
to trade him.
See them getting rid of him. That meant a lot to me on Saturday.
Neither do I. And I saw the video you're talking about.
Did you see it?
Yeah, and it was really cool because I think it's one thing to have it coming from a coach. Doesn't matter what the coach is. If it's Nick Nurse, an assistant, when it's coming from a fellow player, I think the message is a little different and it rings maybe truer in that moment, especially for a younger player like Paul Reed. I'm having Brendan grab the audio now. There's also audio of him talking about with coaching up Tyrese Maxey, and I've wanted Patrick Beverley for years now.
Yes, I remember you saying that before.
Me and Devon would sit in the back and just we would pine for the days of Patrick Beverley being in a Sixers uniform. I don't like the idea of moving on from him. But with that said, I definitely don't like the idea of moving on from him for Kyle Lowry. Like, I love Kyle Lowry as a player. He ain't it.
How about a Malcolm Brogdon deal?
Well, what are you giving up?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is if for some way Pat Bev ended up in the math in a Malcolm Brogdon deal. Do you feel do you feel better about it at that point?
I think
Even though Brogdon's dinged up, I think.
Yeah, I'm torn on
I
that.
read this weekend.
Brogdon's a better offensive player, but I think what Beverly gives you is not even in the box score. It's stuff that Bob was talking about there of coaching guys up, and it's a mentality and it's a mindset that he brings you. He talked about on his podcast, like, yeah, box score wise, I'm not going to pop up there much, but what I bring is a defensive tenacity. It kind of reminds you a little bit of what T.J. McConnell used to bring them when he came off the Sixers bench, and that he was the dog nipping at your heels that you just want to dude, go away.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't go away.
Yeah, everything of you have said so far, Pat, great stuff. There's one little thing that you said about stuff that he doesn't show up in the box score. At some point, this second unit has to start showing up in the box score. And maybe it'll happen when DeAnthony Melton gets back and either he or Oubre is coming off the bench. Maybe that'll be the ignition that second unit has. Although, you have your main scorer with that second unit because Maxey plays with them, Tobias Harris plays with them. I think Marcus Morris is going to give you good stuff, but you got to get some more out of that second unit. And maybe it will. Maybe they already have it when DeAnthony Melton's healthy. So
what do you do then? DeAnthony Melton becomes healthy. He goes back in the starting lineup, or is he coming off the bench? Does Oubre stay in the starting lineup?
I think they're going to keep Oubre in the starting lineup because, like I told you guys when I was down there right before Melton got hurt, that's the way Nick Nurse seemed to be leaning, that he could afford Oubre's lack of defense, let's say, on the floor with Embiid. DeAnthony Melton's really good defense with the second unit without Embiid. So and you're going to hopefully get some scoring from DeAnthony Melton too with that second unit.
You're bringing up that the second unit needs to get more. Is that leaning you towards they need to make a trade?
I have to look at it with what Melton brings. You can look at a box score and say, God, they only got 9 points or 12 points from their bench. But the Sixers play Maxey and Tobias Harris with that second unit. So you have to look at how that second unit scores all together. When DeAnthony Melton gives me a handful of games, but I don't know if you're even going to get that before February 9th.
The 8th. It is the 8th. It's 10 days.
It's a big decision for Daryl Morey here.
So we got the audio of what I was talking about. So this is another reason why I do not want to see, under any circumstance, Pat Bev get traded. Here's Pat Bev talking about Tyrese Maxey having a bad game and how he handled it.
After the Miami game, and he was like, you know what? Nobody gonna say it. Everybody gonna say, oh, Tyrese, okay, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because you played bad. F it, I'm saying. You got to pick it up without Joel. Everybody kiss your back. Everybody tell you how great you are.
That's what's up. That's why Pat is necessary.
And I said, you know what, OG, I got you. Next 2 games, we win next 2 games. I play well, go to the H, have 40. He like, that's all I wanted to see.
See, I love that.
Yeah,
I love hearing that.
You need somebody, and
I
he's
love
right.
hearing that from both ends, by the way.
Yes, you need somebody there going, no, this ain't okay. Everyone's going to tell you that. Sometimes you have too many nice guys in the locker room. Pat Beverly's a veteran who's been there and done that and then some. It's a guy that played overseas and had to buy his own contract out. He wants to win. So I think you need a guy like that in your locker room. I know it's not going to show up in the box score all the time, and Bob, you said the second unit needs to give you something, but what he brings you in that locker room, I think, is more valuable in the moment than maybe 10 points compared to 5.
And it means, as somebody on here rightfully said, yeah, isn't that what you had in P.J. Tucker last year? I hear you. That's a good case to be made. You wanted toughness. You wanted that defensive guy. And Tucker came in here and just wasn't really that. He had toughness and he played D, but
he was also
did nothing.
expensive.
Yeah, $10 million. But he did nothing offensively. I think Pat Bev is all that and then a lot more also on the floor.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the impact. Well, we're starting to, at least, with the video you said and the clip I just played of what he brings to the team. And I think he's becoming that invaluable piece that I don't think you can trade him, especially if the idea is we trade him and we just replace him with a Kyle Lowry. No, I'm good.
8 o'clock hour, the John Kincade Show is a Super Bowl 58 is set. We've been talking about that this morning. And obviously, Chiefs, 49ers. 49ers makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. But did you ever have an opinion that you want to offer? You want to offer an opinion, and you know that you are being completely unfair when you have the opinion? Because I've got one as far as the 2024 Eagles. And yes, I've already turned in the page looking at the 2024 Eagles. With the hirings of Vic Fangio and bringing in Kell Moore as the new offensive coordinator, I find myself saying, no matter what happens next year, if they improve, if they bounce back, if they are back to being a Super Bowl contender, maybe not a Super Bowl favorite, but a Super Bowl contender. And we saw this year with the Chiefs that the Chiefs absolutely can be an 11-6 team, get their act together at the right time, and go to a Super Bowl. That I'm not going to credit Nick Sirianni for the turnaround. Because this year, it sounds unreasonable and it sounds unfair, and it very well might be. But if next year the offense comes back and it is much more aggressive, much more significantly diverse in its approach, keeping teams off their heels, you're able to get out to a lead that then benefits Vic Fangio's defense, and the defense returns to just a level of competency that gives this team a chance to win. There were games this year where the defense didn't give the team a chance to win. I'm not going to be giving the credit to Nick Sirianni. I'm going to be looking at both of these coordinator hires and saying, yeah, they brought in Kell Moore. Kell Moore's a hell of a lot better than what Sirianni and Johnson were doing. And that Vic Fangio comes in, and like the adult in the room, he understands how to clean up the mess that the kids made. But in a way, I don't think it's fair that I'm going in thinking, no matter what Nick Sirianni does, no matter what the team does, I'm not going to give the credit to the head coach.
Is that any different than last year? It was Shane Steichen's offense, so we said, man, this offense is really good. And you know what? They've been better ever since Nick Sirianni decided to give up the reins to Shane Steichen. Boom, there's your offensive mind. Defensively, we're not going to give Nick Sirianni any praise for the defensive side of the ball, right? So we give all the praise to Jonathan Gannon, or the hate or the scrutiny, whatever it was. All went defensively to Jonathan Gannon because Nick Sirianni's an offensive head coach. So just thought for your suggestion here, is it any different than last year?
Because I didn't doubt him going into the year.
But
I thought Nick Sirianni was going to have this team with new coordinators back in the Super Bowl, which honestly was foolish. I was absolutely 100%. This team's going to the Super Bowl again. And by the way, just something I keep here. I still hear it referenced even on this station. The Super Bowl hangover stuff. Can we stop with it? The Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. They're back in the Super Bowl. Enough of the Super Bowl hangover garbage, using that as an excuse. There was no hangover for the Chiefs.
Well, drunks don't get hangovers.
They're just
that's
drunk.
That's a great line.
That's a great line, Bob. That's a great line.
You're a first-time drinker and you drink, man, you're going to have a hangover. You drink every day of your life and you wake up the next day and start all over again. There ain't no hangover. You don't know what that's about. That's your life. That's the that's the Chiefs' life right now. They expect nothing less. They get to Super Bowls. It's like the kid that hits dingers, they go to Super Bowls. And they don't get hangovers. They don't get, hang nails. They don't hang nothing. They just go to Super Bowls. And that's what that organization is about right now.
One of the reasons I picked them for the game against the Ravens was every year. Like, they limp into the playoffs, it seems like. We go,
people think they're vulnerable.
This will be the year that they fall off. They know how to win. They know how to do it. They know how to get into the opponent's heads and end up formulating a game plan. And that game wasn't spectacular.
No.
So what, 17-10? Nothing flashy about that one. But it doesn't matter if the game's on the road, at home. Chiefs know how to do it. The Chiefs are well coached.
Be honest with me, though, Pat. If the Eagles turn it around next year, let's say they go 12-5, win the NFC East, or 13-4, win the NFC East, are you going to say, are you going to be like, Nick Sirianni gets a lot of credit for this turnaround? Because you may be more fair than I am.
No, I'll probably go Kell Moore and Vic Fangio deserve a lot of credit. And then if they do have that turnaround and they do end up going deep into the playoffs, you're likely to have a situation where you're replacing Kell Moore.
Correct.
Vic Fangio, you don't have to worry about. Kell Moore, you do, because he's 35 at that point. His eyes aren't on being a career OC. He moved to, it seemed like at least, he moved to L.A., one, because, Mike McCarthy wanted play calling, but two, it would boost his resume a la Eric Bieniemy. just get out of that situation, prove you can do it two places. If you do it three places, you're not going to be here for long. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be at the point now after everything I have heard that I'm going to be like, yeah, Sirianni deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit for the rah-rah speeches. Keeping a loose locker room. That's about it.
Yeah, so my point being, will our reaction to Nick Sirianni be any different should the season play out like you just laid out, John?
They're in the mix for going to they're in the mix to go to the NFC Championship game, have a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Will our reaction to Nick Sirianni and what he does be any different than it was when they went to the Super Bowl last year? Because last year, I don't think we were all going crazy over Nick Sirianni's X's and O's and all that. We were saying, okay, he's a player's coach.
We thought we had a really good coach, though. We thought we had a real good. I never would have thought that when his team was in disarray, if anyone had told me at 10-1, this team's about to go into a slide, I would have said Nick Sirianni, he'll get him out of it. He'll find a way to get them out of it, because I honestly thought he'd step in and have a few, I guess, sort of words of wisdom, a message. I didn't doubt. I never thought when they were 10-3 that they were going to go into a tailspin.
How's your hot water heater doing?
It goes great because I have a Bradford White.
But do you sit up and do you worry about it? Do you think about it? Do you wonder if, how many years more you have in it? Is it going to explode? No, we don't, because there's nothing wrong with it. Like last year, Nick Sirianni probably did the exact same thing he did this year. We didn't worry about it last year because it wasn't broken. So if he gets back to running well after the hot water heater exploded this year, and he gets back to running well next year, it's just, you don't worry about what he does because we don't know what he does. I don't know. It's a great question, John.
I want to ask you guys, too, if you're out there at 610-632-0975, if they have the turnaround next year and they're right back in the mix, they're in the mix to be, they're playing divisional playoff weekend minimum, are you going to be giving the credit to Nick Sirianni? Are you going to say, well, Nick Sirianni gets a lot of credit for this, man. He turned this thing around. Or are you going to doubt him? Like I'm sort of doubting it right now.
I'll tell you what, real quick, before we hit Mike. He might be about fourth on my list. If they turn this around and have a good season, I guess it'll go to Fangio. I guess it'll go to Moore. Might even go somewhere front office-wise. It might go player-wise.
Individual players, right?
Yeah, I don't even anticipate that he would be towards the top.
Mike joins us on The Fanatic. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, buddy.
Mike.
I agree. It's weird. I think he got a lot of credit when he first became coach. We made the playoffs. I think he got a lot of credit when we made the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
And he got a lot of credit when we were 10-1. And then once everything hit the fan, he got all the hate, right? So do I think he'd get the credit if we, get back to the Super Bowl or back on track next season? Probably not. But it's probably going to be more Howie, which is why Nick is our head coach.
Do you doubt?
Howie wants that.
Did you doubt him, Mike? I mean, honestly, when they going into this year, did you expect that there was going to be a significant backslide?
No, absolutely not. I was like you. We're going back to the Super Bowl. We were 10-1.
Right.
We were pounding our chest. Even if we got beat by the Niners, we were still pounding our chest. But then it unraveled, and unfortunately, that falls on him. But it started falling on Howie this couple of weeks. A lot of that conversation came up. So I think if we're back to where we're supposed to be, Howie gets the credit, and that's how Howie designs it.
Well,
that's how he wants it.
Hopefully,
thank
you, Mikey. Hopefully, we have a good off season of acquisitions and new faces that sort of freshen things up. I guarantee you, with Vic Fangio came in, there has to be. On the defensive side, there's going to be some. I have a feeling there'll be significant focus not only in the draft but in free agency.
Oh God, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, how could it get worse?
It can't get worse.
They just we're gonna be laughing about this when we're old and gray. They had Hassan Reddick dropping back in coverage.
Yeah, we're gonna laugh about it.
That's one of the dumbest things I've seen in a long time. And then the excuse, and I know he was covering for the idiotic defensive coordinators, but the excuse of, well, we don't want to be predictable. Huh? Okay, for him, can you be predictable, please?
I'd rather just to be good. Just be good.
Yeah.
If we're good and predictable, I'm fine with it.
I want to see Jalen Hurts, covering wide receivers because I don't want to be predictable. I know every time he has the ball, he's throwing it or handing it off.
Here's what I'd say about it. The 49ers are completely predictable. The Kansas City Chiefs are a little more of a wild card, but they tend to be predictable in the kind of things they do. if you're really, really good at what you do, you can be predictable. And it's not a bad thing. Steve joins us on the Fanatic. Steve, good morning.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I mean, you're right. Because when it was, whatever and one, we knew what was coming. And for the most part, nobody could beat it. So they were very good, when they were predictable there. But, they got me with it because I didn't predict that, losing 6 out of 7. So it was effective.
Well, now, next year, if they make the bounce back,
here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because Pat just mentioned it. Obviously, Kell Moore, the wonder kid, he doesn't want to be a lifelong OC. He's 35 years old. If they make this bounce back that they potentially make with two seasoned coordinators, do you then think about hiring Kell Moore as your head coach and cutting Nick loose at that point?
Well, he would have been, again, in L.A., the Chargers would not let him interview with any other team until they found out they were getting Jim Harbaugh. And
Correct.
Then once they found out, they let him go because there was a big talk that he would have ended up being the head coach.
Well, that's why I think that, if, we may be in a situation at the end of next season where Super Bowl win or not, if they put together a very nice season and he's obviously key to it, they might be thinking about the same thing, keeping him around rather than lose him.
I think
cut Nick loose.
I think knowing the Eagles, they're going to want nothing more than to say if they turn it around going, see, we knew who Nick Sirianni was. We knew that Nick would get this all fixed.
Oh, we always had our faith in him. That's why we gave him a contract extension.
Exactly. They are going to be absolutely insufferable with, we knew it. We knew what kind of a great coach he is.
I'm in a way different spot. If they do well, okay, yeah, he's still here. If they don't do well, okay, yeah, he's still here. Like I said, when they went to the Super Bowl, I don't know that he was in the top 3 of praise being heaped upon. When they lost this year so badly, I don't know that he was in the top 3 of fault being heaped upon. Do you?
I think he was taking a lot of heat during the slide, but until the slide, no.
Yeah, but
it was coordinated. It was coordinators.
It was coordinators. It was players.
Right.
It was, he's just kind of that. He's kind of like, he's there. He's there. He's not going to get praise. He's not going to get heat. He, has fun wearing T-shirt. Like, I don't know. But the importance of this team, and this is like not good, I guess. But the importance of this team to me, praise or default, doesn't go top 3 to Nick Sirianni, and that's weird.
How do you want to jump in with us? 610-632-0975. We'd love to hear from you. And be honest, if next year there's the turnaround, I know Mike's going to talk about it and others, where's the credit going to go? Because I don't think I'm going to be able to give it to Nick Sirianni, and I'm saying it right now. I think that's unfair of me to sort of set that up in advance. Well, what do you think? 610-632-0975. John Kincade Show. Make sure you got that 97.5 The Fanatic app downloaded here on 97.5.
Look, guys, we're talking.
if you have feelings about what went down Saturday in Denver with the Sixers, Bob's always got an interesting take for you there. Sixers in action tonight on the Fanatic and tomorrow night in the Fanatic. Tonight at Portland, tomorrow at Golden State. So 2 very winnable games on the road. Hopefully everybody can play back-to-back. Lots of rest. We can get out there and play some of these games. I hate the Knicks.
I sense
the Knicks are climbing
facetiousness in your voice.
Yeah, the Knicks are climbing. The Cavs are climbing. And now it's a 3-way dogfight for third. Where you were
too
comfortably
early, John.
there.
Don't you worry about that. Way too. Give yourself a couple months.
If it comes down that it ends up being the turning point of the season, I'm going to hold you to that. Hopefully it's not. Michael joins us on the Fanatic. Michael, what do you think about if Nick Sirianni turns this thing around? If the team turns it around, how much credit's Nick going to get?
Guys, he's not going to get much credit at all. I want you to think about this. Think about a restaurant, favorite restaurant down the street. You got an owner. They got a head chef. Head chef leaves. The food goes to shit. It's not good anymore, right? And then everyone starts leaving. Guy goes get a new head chef. All of a sudden, the food turns around. The food's great again. Is the owner going to get credit? No. Like, let's think about it pragmatically. How are the Eagles going to be better next year? The offense becomes more user-friendly for Hurts, more under center, more passes over the middle of the field, a screen game that actually works. We get back to RPO. Who's going to get credit for that? It's going to be Hurts and Moore. How are we going to get better at defense? Personnel. We got to get better personnel. We got to get better at developing the young second-year, third-year guys that we have on the team already. Who's going to get credit for that? Fangio and Howie. So all we need Nick to do, like the owner of that shop, all we need him to do, go table to table, kiss babies, shake hands, maybe bring out a free couple apps here and there. He's not going to get the credit for that turnaround. It's going to be Fangio. It's going to be Moore. It's going to be Howie Roseman.
Is that fair, though? Because here's one of the things. Michael, you're where I'm at. I feel the same way as you do. But is it fair? Because what if Nick Sirianni learns some lessons this year and he's a better head coach next year?
He would have learned those lessons in week 14, 15, 16, 17. We watched Nick Sirianni go into a Giants game where the Giants were the second most blitzing defense, not have a plan for the blitz, and then watch him go into the next week with the most blitzing defense in Tampa Bay and still not have it. How do you not learn from that?
Well, thankfully, you have an OC now who is great at his offenses handling blitz pickup. Like, fantastic. And I think a former NFL quarterback, a former big-time college quarterback, he puts an emphasis on that, understanding the importance of it.
Yeah, I'm on board with Michael. Like, praise or fault, I always think Nick Sirianni's just going to fall down the line in both of those categories because I hate to say it, I really don't like saying this, but what is it that you do here that replays onto the field on Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays or Saturdays?
Any other day of the week?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Jack joins us. Jack, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, buddy.
I go off the previous caller about I think they were looking for a new head coach, not an offensive defense coordinator, and go by the last guy scenario. I think they bring in the head chef and say, "Hey, you do a good job. I'm going to make you manager." So I think that's where they're at this year.
So you think that's where it is?
Yeah, and I've been watching the four coaches yesterday. Just really turned my stomach on Sirianni this year. Just don't think he has what those four coaches yesterday had.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Sirianni, and as much as I can't stand him, Kyle Shanahan, he's a brilliant coach. He made every adjustment in that second half, and I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? And I love that they never abandoned the run. They never, ever abandoned it.
Yeah, great coaching there. You got the best running back in all the world. Why not run him, right?
That you went and got.
Yeah.
You went and got him to fit your offense and everything, and then but they even run, they're constantly use using all their weapons too. They use them all. They mix up. The Eagles were so predictable this year. It's really, really ugly. I wonder, too, with some of the contracts that they have coming up, they're going to have some tough decisions to make. And it's going to be a really, really interesting, setup to try to figure out what do they prioritize this offseason. I would wonder, do they approach Devontae Smith with the contract now, going into year 4, when they can always slap the year 5 on him? Do they feel the need that they got to do it now to try to get him tied into an extension, get him at a better price? Do they approach? Are they going to approach Hassan Reddick? And Pat, I wonder about that one. Do they approach Hassan Reddick and lock him down? Because you can't have him playing on a lame duck contract.
Nope,
he's not going to be happy.
You better approach him. You better figure something out there, because he was a good soldier this past year. He wanted a contract extension, and we all knew that heading into this season. He talked about it, but he said there's nothing I can do about it, and he didn't cause any ruckus or any problems in the locker room. He didn't speak about it after he was asked about it. He never brought it up publicly. I mean, privately, I'm sure his agent discussed it with Howie Roseman. But look, he's been a good soldier, and he deserves to be rewarded. He's underpaid.
I didn't blame the Eagles not giving him one this year.
Not necessarily.
I don't renegotiate with 2 years left. 1 year left now. Yeah, I'd consider it.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it with
at this
2 years
point.
left.
You can't go into the final year. I mean, you're begging for a holdout scenario if that happens.
Financially, they can't really hold out nowadays, but you can have disgruntled.
You can hold out and get fined and send your message. I mean, with a new DC, I'd want my best pass rusher in camp.
Or he doesn't show up for OTAs.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that. I don't think
there's ways around.
I don't think he's that guy, by the way. From what I've heard about him, I don't believe he's that guy, but
doesn't seem like it.
Messing with people's money though can.
But I mean, he
change people.
Yeah, he's also a guy that wants the stability. I mean, you figure he gets drafted by the Cardinals and they don't pick up his 5th-year option, so he's there for 4 years. He moves on to Carolina for 2. He's been in Philly for 2, and this will be his 3rd year. I think he wants the stability of being somewhere for a decent stretch, and I think that place is probably home.
Then you can't have him and Josh Sweat get extensions, can you?
I'd have to look at Josh Sweat's contract, because isn't he signed for a decent bit?
I think he has 2 years left, maybe. If I'm looking, we got to look at that.
He's got to wait past.
He's waiting past Hassan Reddick. And I wonder too, though, and you got Devontae Smith who's going to want one. There's going to be some maneuvering that has to be done, but I don't worry about it, as you say, with Howie.
No, you just don't. We can sit here and look at cap space and where they are or whatever. It never matters with Howie. It doesn't. You assume that the good guys are going to get signed. There's going to be some, oh, wow, I can't believe they let him go. But it's all for the betterment of everybody else. I assume this offseason there's going to be a lot of Devontae Smith contract talk.
Hey, Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. Get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system, and we appreciate their support. First Friday is Friday. This Friday, February the 2nd. You want to come in? You want to watch the show? You want to have breakfast? You want to hang out with us? Have a chance to win fabulous prizes? You can do it. We'll tell you about the guest list coming up during the week. But get on in right now. Go to 975thefanatic.com and get yourself registered. We would love to see you out at First Friday coming up on the 2nd. Saturday was a real bummer. I'm going to tell you is that I lost some money in the morning playing blackjack. Then I saw the Flyers get just trounced. And then the Sixers game, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be the savior. The Sixers game, 5:30, which, by the way, is perfect. That's a great weekend start time. They're going to be playing Denver. It's that chance for Denver's going to try to punch them in the mouth after the week before. And then we got what we got. Bob's got thoughts on the Sixers and more in a Cooney's column.
Let's turn the page and find out what's in Cooney's column.
The deflation of excitement when it comes to sports can be as annoying as a winless weekend in Philadelphia, which is what we just experienced. But when that disappointment of sporting event happens, even before the ball is pitched, kicked, or tossed, or puck dropped, it seems to garner even harsher reaction. Such was the case late Saturday afternoon when it was announced that Joel Embiid was a late scratch just before another matchup against the Denver Nuggets. And more interestingly, against fellow center Nikola Jokic. Held out because of a left knee soreness, the absence of Embiid rankled the feelings of fans throughout the basketball world, as a Saturday afternoon nationally televised matchup was a perfect appetizer to an NFL playoff entree that was to follow the next day. But it didn't come about when it was announced just moments before tip-off that Embiid would miss his 11th game of the season. And then, before a limited Sixers team that was also missing Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and DeAnthony Melton took Denver to the limit before losing 111-105, the theories about Embiid not playing in Denver started to surface. Questions of his willingness to play against Jokic, especially in Denver, where he hasn't played the last few games. They started to arise. Chants from the fans there asking where he was. Locals pondering if there was all something to it. Well, I'm here to tell you there is not. Why would there be? In 8 matchups against Jokic, Embiid is 6-2. He's averaged 28 points a game against Denver and has played a big part in holding Jokic to just 22 points a game in those 8 contests. He has out-rebounded the former MVP and even posted a 47-pointer against him. Frustration is totally understandable when the best player on the planet is taken away, even if it's for a game on a lazy Saturday afternoon in the middle of winter. But don't let the facts get in the way of feelings. The fact is Embiid, if given the choice, would have loved to have put on a show for the country to see, to have a chance to lengthen the distance between he and Jokic, to forcefully stamp in the minds of doubters that he is the best player on the planet. The decision of those types, from my knowledge, is made by a medical staff. Not Embiid, not Nick Nurse, and certainly not made because of who the opposing center is.
Can I play devil's advocate with you a little bit?
Sure, you won't be right, but yeah, you can do it, John.
Why did they hold him out the last 3 years healthy in Denver?
I don't know. I don't know.
So I mean,
why would you say that? Why would you say they did?
I don't know. Maybe the conditioning.
I don't know the circumstances of it. Could have been conditioning. Could have been they had a game the next night. Could have been they had a game the night before. I don't know the circumstances of it. But if you're asking why because you think Jokic is a part of it.
Oh, no. I think it's more of Denver being a part of it.
Could be.
Conditioning and things like that. And to me, the Sixers created this narrative. Like the Sixers, if anybody at the Sixers would be offended by the narrative, they're the ones who created it.
Sure.
By keeping him out of games when he's healthy. And saying, no, he's not playing tonight because we think having a night off in January is going to help him in May. They've created the narrative that is now that gets them mocked at times around the NBA.
As has all the NBA. We saw Kawhi Leonard sit for tons of time, even when they won a championship in Toronto. We see guys getting load management all the time. We're seeing it with Victor Wembanyama right now.
Wasn't he the father of load management? Pops?
Oh, yeah. God, he sent Brett Brown home with the 3 stars when they were about to play a Miami team on a national television game. And he said, no, why don't you guys go back to San Antonio and rest up? And Brett Brown walking through an airport with those 3 guys with his head between his legs saying, oh, my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was innovative. It was new. It was something that people have bought into. And, yeah, perhaps it is Denver. Perhaps it is the altitude up there. You see it right in the middle of the floor, 5280. You know, it's a real thing.
And it is a real thing.
Oh, my God, you can't imagine if you haven't been there. So, yeah, maybe that's part of the medical staffs. But if like the Denver fans were, and, a couple people said it to me this weekend, he doesn't want to play against Jokic.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
No, that's not it at all. And that's what the column's about. That's not the reason.
It's a Sixers in action tonight and tomorrow night. So Sixers against Golden State tonight. Sixers against the Golden State tomorrow night, and the Portland Trailblazers tonight. Trailblazers are terrible.
Yeah, they're not good this year.
And Golden State is a team that is very beatable. So hopefully the Sixers can get things rolling again.
Golden State's a tough place to play with those guys there.
It's
just tough. It's you Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. You go there. It's a different atmosphere. It's really cool. The fans are really into it. You're not the old Golden State Warriors that we're used to.
No.
But that still is a very
formidable.
Very man, you can go there and get boat raced before you even know it. Like you literally can start the game before you know it. You're down 25 points. That's when they get going. That's a really tough place to play.
It is. Both those games, you'll be able to hear them on 97.5 the Fanatic, and just as too as the Flyers go into the All-Star break. And Pat, it was a stumbling in. Strange. 5-game winning streak, 5-game losing streak.
Yeah,
it sort of tells you what it is. Giveth and taketh, I should say.
They're probably not ready for the prime time spotlight, but they're also dealing with big time injuries and big time headaches. So I wouldn't expect them to go out there and beat a team like Boston. Boston's really good. They're one of the best coach teams in hockey. I don't exactly know if I expected them to get hammered the way they did, but
I'm worried about the goals against. I mean, all of a sudden now it seems like the team defense has sprung a leak. That they just don't seem like the same.
I never thought their defense was very good. They were playing above their.
Oh, they were.
What do you say, above their skis?
Yeah, over their skis.
Over the skis, yeah. They were
top 6. They were top 6 2 weeks ago.
They're not a top 6 defense. That defense is gross. But yeah, it's come back down to earth a little bit.
Well, that's a tough one.
I think if you give truth serum to Keith Jones and Danny Briere and company, they'll tell you the same thing. Like
that
Rasmus Ristolainen is, Cam York is slow to progress, but he's got some skill. Travis Sanheim is
Sanheim.
I don't know.
But like he's not.
He's your top defenseman.
Yeah, exactly. Like he won the award a couple years ago, and it was like if this guy's winning that award, that's a bad sign.
I can tell you from seeing it again in person, I love watching Jamie Drysdale and seeing what potentially he's going to be bringing to this club.
I'll tell you, he's in a great spot with this city because he's not Cutter Gauthier. Anything that guy does, the fan base wants to latch onto and go, this is the greatest thing. So he just comes out for pregame warm-ups, and you've got videos going up of like, look, he's so special. And like, because the fan base is trying to convince themselves that they won the trade. And the Flyers very well could have won that trade. And Jamie Drysdale's really, really a good defenseman. But it's that like jilted lover thing of like, I'm doing better. And Jamie Drysdale is in a perfect scenario currently where he can pretty much do zero wrong because he's in a bad defensive group where he will shine and his ability will shine, but also because his name's not Cutter Gauthier. And because the narrative is like he wants to be here when he got traded here. And obviously he does want to be here. I don't think he doesn't, but he's just in a great spot where like, yeah, all right, we're doing better with him and we don't need you, Cutter Gauthier. And Cutter Gauthier, I think, is going to be a really, really good player in the NHL. But Jamie Drysdale has a skill set that this team sorely lacks.
He's getting about 12% more in his paycheck.
That'll help, right?
That definitely puts a smile on a young kid. Because what do you get? Your first paychecks in life? You start going, who the hell's FICA? What is this? I've heard nothing but complaining about it from my daughter. Going, what, Dad? They take so much money out. I said,
a check.
I'm like, cry me a river. Seriously.
It's not fun when you see the paycheck and
how much they start taking it out. That's why you need Davis CPA Group to be able to help you make sure you're making the right decisions. Save you as much money as possible.
If only they listen to us.
Yes. The tax.
Or called us once in a while.
Tax man.
Every once in a while, just like call us up and give us his opinion.
Say what's up?
I like it, though. The one thing that was really, really cool on Saturday, that building was packed. I would say probably, a couple thousand Bruin fans, maybe. But it was a packed stadium, and the energy in there was great, and the Flyers were getting really good.
Minutes.
Yeah, no, till the last 5 minutes of the first period. But it was a great stadium on Saturday, and that just tells me, okay, they're starting to the city is reacting to what they've seen, and I think they want to support Keith Jones and Danny Briere too.
Agreed.
I think it's they have faces that they can support.
I think initially,
I guess
they have to prove themselves.
Why do you say you guys?
Well, I want them to, yeah, and I think it's a good change and all. But to a lot of Flyers fans, as much as we don't agree with it, it's the same old thing. Oh yeah, let's bring back former players.
Yeah, that's what I hear from my dad
still think there's a lot of fans just sitting on the fence saying, "Yeah, we'll see." I mean, they've been doing this for 40 years. Just keep reshuffling and bringing back former players.
I think the difference with this group as opposed to the previous
it's different
groups,
too.
And I agree because I've heard it from my dad constantly. Anytime they bring back a former player, it's like, here we go again. But this group did something that no other previous group did, and they said the word rebuild.
Yeah.
And they weren't
set
scared
expectations.
Of it. And they went, look, like we're not going to be a playoff team. We're not going to be contending for Stanley Cups. And the previous group, it was like they were just trying to get back to the Broad Street Bullies and That's why you end up trading a first-round pick for Rasmus Ristolainen and giving him a ridiculous contract because he hits hard. Okay, but he's not very good defensively.
What was weird is talking to a couple security people that I know down there. It was great to see Dave, by the way. Dave will call in, I'm sure, during the week, and we saw him on Saturday saying how Keith Jones walking the concourse is just a huge difference too. Like going on out there and meeting the fans and talking to the fans. And Dan Hilferty does it too. There's a distinct let's get out, let's meet the people. Let's get out, let's hear the feedback.
Well, previously,
let's not shy away from it.
It would be like they'd have these town hall meetings with season ticket holders where Chuck Fletcher would get up there and they'd throw in a legendary flyer up there next to him to kind of be like the shield.
Well, Coatsy was always sort of the host of it, right?
And it's like, that's just not the way to do it when you've got a guy who's quasi trying to save his job. And it was a bad situation, a bad scenario. And it turned so many fans off where they just didn't bother going down there. And it's okay that the team loses now. It's because at least you have a vision. Last year, you had no idea what the vision of that team was. They told you they were trying to contend. They would curtail around the trading and such. And then the trade deadline happens and they play it off like we didn't have any offers for JVR. Stop. Come on. Like,
he looked good on Saturday too. Wow. He got a great ovation. Great ovation.
Did he get a video tribute?
Yes, he did.
Oh, jeez.
He got a video tribute, and the fans gave him a great ovation. So it was a little surprising. Hey, we're turning the page to the 2024 Eagles, and 2 new hirings create a whole new slew of questions. We'll get to some of them next. Thanks for hanging out with us. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, happy Super Bowl from FanDuel.
powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I see Bob chowing down on a cookie, and I thought maybe that maybe Pat's mom had shown up, but no, MBG brought him in.
She's the best. Good
Man,
cookies.
little cookie for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she shows up with a smile on her face and cookies.
Cookies for breakfast.
You need, and like she's like Pat Bev. Might not show up on the stat sheet, but you need somebody like that in the building.
Glue.
Yep.
Glue.
The glue people.
Yep.
Notorious MBG doing her best. We have the 9 o'clock hour approaching, and obviously over the weekend we found out that Kell Moore was the new offensive coordinator for your Philadelphia Eagles, and it was weird because I saw one of the a commentator online, one of the websites, talking about the hires and going, Nick Sirianni went out and hired two really, really competent coordinators. And I responded and said, I don't believe he hired them. And I don't believe that Nick Sirianni was the one. They went, Nick, you got to fix this. Go hire some coordinators. Okay, I'll get back to you with who I want. I don't believe for 1 second that's the way that it went down. I like the process. I'm sure Nick was involved in the process. I like the process ending up with Vic Fangio, and I like the process ending up with Kell Moore. To me, again, I love the fact that you got a guy who's a former head coach who was in there with a ton of NFL experience who can maybe help Nick navigate some rough waters where they didn't have that this year. There was nobody to go to when the boat started to sink. Nobody knew the way off. And I like the fact that Kell Moore is a guy who, and again, reading here from the LA Times, who laid off, by the way, half their staff the other day, it seems like, from reading. That seems to be the headlines. That there's one of the beat writers believes that Kell Moore would have been the head coach of the Chargers if, for some reason, Jim Harbaugh didn't take the job. And so he was a guy who was being restricted from visiting with people, and he was going to end up in Cleveland or here. Now Cleveland might turn to Brian Johnson. It appears they may go to Brian Johnson as their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, Stefanski has a heavy hand in that offense. I wonder what his role would be there, but somebody else's problem, right?
Yeah, someone else's at this point.
Go ahead, have at it. That's fun.
I look at it though, and I just say is that I like who they went and hired, and because of track record, but I also like why they hired them, and I think that both guys have a good story to tell as this team tries to dig out of the wreckage of what they created at the end of this year.
Yeah, we'll see. And that's all we can do is see. I mean, you had all of the pieces there offensively. It appeared to be a really good offensive football team. That didn't really come into play a whole lot this season. As Nick Sirianni said, it got awfully stale there towards the end.
Oh, it did.
And which we saw. Didn't seem to have an identity offensively, although you have so many guys on that side of the ball that are identifiable. Vic Fangio's job is going to be different. He's going to have to do a whole character rebuild. Who is this team? Where do you build from? What is tangible about your defense that you can say that's where it's at? It seems as though he's very much a line play man, defensive line backers. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, are these great hires? They seem to be good. It seems to be the best guys that were available. So, okay.
I wonder if Slay and Bradbury, if anybody, I couldn't see anybody picking up Bradbury's contract, but Slay's contract, Pat, I bet if you weren't expecting a lot in return, you could move that.
I don't know if I'd want to, because then you're stuck with Bradbury, and he's your number one cornerback now, and I thought was the definition of cooked. But Slay is still playing at a pretty decent level, so I wouldn't want to move. I feel like if you move Slay, you're moving him for the sake of moving him when you don't have a great insurance policy. If you want to go with Isaiah Rodgers, then fine, but he hasn't played football in over a year. I'm not ready to just say, okay, he can be your number one cornerback. I really do think the move is just wait for the June 1st designation and just cut Bradbury and either move on with Keely Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, or Eli Ricks or Josh Jobe, one of the four.
Well, Rodgers can be a starting corner in this league.
And he can.
Know what I mean?
But it does concern me. He hasn't played football in over a year.
But guys get hurt all the time and miss years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point.
And come back. It's not like he's old with a terrible
Host has a
point.
point.
The tire.
Host has a good point.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it that way. Well, that's a year of wear and tear that's not on there.
You could.
So we'll see what he is.
There are one of the things being talked about is there are Vic Fangio guys in the NFL. Guys who are famous for playing in that Fangio style, that Fangio system, who may be picking up the phone and saying, "Hey Vic, you got a spot for me? You got a landing spot for me? I'm looking to find a new job." So one of the things he has not had, in reading the Miami Herald when he was hired, Vic Fangio has never had a problem being able to recruit players to be interested in come and play for him. Guys who share his philosophy are drawn to playing for him. They understand it. Seems like younger players sometimes are pushed, sometimes to the point of distraction, as we saw some of the Miami players a little bit upset with how hard they were asked to work. That he was relentless with film study. That just is, it's like, and he would dwell on, okay, you made that mistake again. You made that mistake again. And some of them felt like they were being picked on.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. Cry me a river.
That's what a coach is supposed to do, make you better as a player. And, it's rare that they make you better as a player. Well, try again next time.
Yeah, that's
no.
We really are proud of you.
Yeah, no, you correct it right away. And as I referenced earlier, a really good story this weekend about his biggest job just may be lying with those two fatties from Georgia in the middle.
Sure.
And getting Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis up to snuff, back to where they were talked about week in and week out of how well they were playing, as opposed to being talked about of where are they. So it probably starts there with him inside working out. And then, you got to get talent. You have to get some linebacker situation going on. You need better play from Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, but you also need guys backing them up. They were asked to do an awful lot this year. So, I would say the biggest part of this offseason on how to get this team better is probably sitting in the lap of Vic Fangio.
And you talk about the Georgia guys with Carter and Davis. Davis, a much bigger developmental issue than Carter is. Carter could very well end up being Defensive Rookie of the Year coming up in a week. The idea being, though, if he doesn't get something out of them, Bob, if they aren't huge impact players, that sets this franchise back.
Oh, sure it does.
In a huge way because of what you invested in both of them.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Nolan Smith either. If the Eagles didn't have that, pick to get Jalen Carter, that's their first-round pick. That is the only guy that you got in the first round would be Nolan Smith, and you didn't get much from him at all as an edge rusher this year either. So he's got to get a lot out of youngsters, and he's probably going to have new players that he's going to have to get a lot out of, too, on that side of the ball.
How much benefit of the doubt, Pat, do you give on that the scheme sucked, the coaching sucked for some of these young guys and some of the veterans?
A lot of it. A lot of the player struggles this season I am putting a giant asterisk next to and just going, can't really say that's them or
say that's a sign of the future.
Probably. With some of them, yeah, and we'll find out. We'll find out next season if you've got a Jordan Davis who continues to kind of look like it's, if the numbers are pedestrian and he looks meh, then at that point you go, all right, man, three defensive coordinators, hasn't worked with any of them. Maybe you just kind of missed on that one. But with other ones, I guarantee you'll see them back to their old ways. Like I bet you'll see Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick being able to get back to the quarterback more frequently.
Sure.
Instead of, hey, let's wait 2 months and then we'll hit the quarterback now. I think you'll see a more improved secondary unit. It's hard for me to imagine that all of these guys just fell off a cliff at the same time when you had a defensive scheme that was so haphazardly thrown together. You're firing a DC in midseason and you're replacing them with a pencil, and the whole thing was a mess. So why would I think it wouldn't trickle down to the players? But yes, to your point, I think that there's some players that's just who they are now, and I think the majority of them though will regain their form.
I thought it was interesting yesterday when they one of the writers in Baltimore had written the piece that he believes if the Baltimore Ravens had the draft pick that the Eagles had, that they would have taken Jordan Davis. And then that Kyle Hamilton then probably would have been a logical choice for the Eagles. And Kyle Hamilton was the best player on the field yesterday for the Ravens. A second-year player going to the Pro Bowl.
Plays.
Made a big plays. I mean, he was the best player.
The tight end to go 11 for 100+ yards.
He wasn't in on a lot of those on a lot of his catches.
Safety's going to be there. He was in. He tackled him a lot.
Oh, he did, but he wasn't even in on the last.
He's tackling him. He's there.
Well, at least 4 of them, he wasn't even in the vicinity. He wasn't in the scheme covering them at all.
Yeah, he was on. He was noticeable yesterday. Yeah,
and that's a guy that now you have a position of need that you didn't fill, that you could have filled, and you didn't fill it. So Jordan Davis has got to come through. He's got to come through.
Yeah.
And again, at week 10, they were one of the best run defense in the NFL. And then
is that amazing? Through 9 weeks, you were the number 1 rushing defense,
and then you went to 31st. That's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah. That's falling apart. And I believe too, you've seen 2 years with Jordan Davis where you've seen some glimpses of what they thought they were getting. But he can't be running out of gas. You can't. You cannot run out of gas in the NFL.
And we saw him run out of gas. It wasn't like
no question.
Wow. We saw the last play where he tried to chase down Josh Allen, flipped over on the sidelines, and basically just laid there. And the other team was laughing because it was a hell of an effort and all of that. And it was a long game. But that was it. He was out of gas, and there was no gas stations open, and that was his season right there.
Did we hear his name? Like honestly, making an impact on a game again?
We didn't hear his or Jalen Carter's.
After that Josh Allen play, which was an incredible chase down for a man his size to be able to do it. But then you just peter out. You cannot be done in November. You don't have a month off before the national championship game. It's not college.
No.
And whatever's happening, they've got to change that in a huge way.
Yeah.
They have to change that.
Both of them. I mean, Jalen Carter was pretty much invisible those last 6-7 games. You didn't hear his voice, hear him being talked about at all either. So, you start to wonder what goes on there. Is Georgia just so good that they roll over teams and their starters don't have to play all that much? Do these guys come in shape? Are they used to that kind of stuff you're only playing half a game? Well, that ain't it here. So somehow they got to get them on that right track.
They have, because you have such a good 2-deep depth chart and you're blowing teams out, you're not responsible for playing more. Oh yeah, well they could if they wanted to. Well, they got to play. They got to play more. It is the biggest challenge is for Fangio to be trying to get the most out of the young players, because there's a question about which of these older players sticks around. And I'm not sure which fit what Vic Fangio wants to do. Like, I'm not sure if he keeps a Brandon Graham around, if he decides to even make a reference to keeping a Fletcher Cox around. I don't know how young he wants to get. And the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl last year with a really young defense, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, and they're really good.
Yes.
We saw it yesterday, and they have some All-Pros sprinkled in there, and they've grown those guys. Can Vic Fangio come in here and maybe do that? He's going to absolutely have the chance to do it.
No question.
I don't know who the starting corners are going to be next year or the starting safeties, but I'll bet you out of, I don't know, 5 combined corners and safeties, 5 of them, I'll bet you at least 3 are different. Maybe even more.
I wonder how young they're willing to go. Like, how young are you willing to get when you when you think you have a team that's still close? And Pat, it's one of the questions you wanted to get to today was the idea that, just a year ago, we came in this morning celebrating.
Yeah.
Getting ready for a trip to Arizona.
Different vibe.
To see the Eagles in the Super Bowl. But where does that leave you as far as looking forward?
Yeah, where are we going to be in a year? Because you're right, the window being open kind of prohibits what this team is able to do in terms of ushering in a little bit of a youth movement. They kind of have to pick their battles in that sense. So if a Fletcher Cox were to leave, you'd understand it, because they've taken 3 players in the top 3 rounds, 2 of them being in the first round. One of them should win Defensive Player of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year at that position. So if they move on from him, fine. You understand that. If they move on from a Brandon Graham for a younger player, I don't know who that younger player is, honestly. They don't really have anybody. But let's go with cornerbacks. If you move on from a Darius Slay and a James Bradbury, let's say they cut one, they trade Slay, and they usher in Isaiah Rodgers and Keely Ringo era, are you able to win with that? It's a shame because the Sidney Brown injury really hurts him big time. Him being out, he was going to be your safety next year, and now you're got a hole that you need to plug there. But where do you think we are in a year from now? Do you think we're back to talking about, maybe a post game? Are they that far off? Like, yeah, the holes were exposed, but I think any team that loses, you go, okay, let's talk about why they lost, and you're talking about holes. I mean, I'm sure Detroit radio today is talking about the holes that they had and what caused them to lose that game. And yeah, it was Dan Campbell, but what about this position and that position? Every team has holes. Just about every single team in the NFL has holes, especially this season.
What I think of, Pat, is if you're waking up in Detroit today, you're still angry. You're going to be angry for a couple days.
Oh, yeah.
But then you're going to say, the future's so bright. And I think that's one of the things we said the Monday after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The future's so bright. We're so loaded. We're going to be right back. So to me, I do believe that next year we will be, I don't know that the day after the NFC title game we're going to be talking about a Super Bowl berth, but I do believe we will be talking about a better Eagles season overall. We will not be talking. I do not believe we will be talking about an Eagles season that is an embarrassment and an abject failure, which this year was.
This year was historical, so
yes.
I don't think.
I don't think it's going to. But I don't think
there's any chance it could be worse.
No, but I don't think we're going to be talking about a coaching change either. Like, I don't believe we're going to be talking about Nick Sirianni being fired and everything like that. I think this thing will rebound enough that people will be okay with the direction that they're at and say, hey, with a good draft and some free agents, we can be right back maybe in a Super Bowl.
They should be. I mean, they really should be. I don't know what the total, you used the word earlier that you don't like, but where did the disconnect come? Because all of a sudden, after 10-1, they did not look like an NFL football team anymore. Not even a little bit. And the fact that you expect going into a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game against Baker Mayfield that he's going to carve you up like a Thanksgiving turkey, and he does it, that's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, they get the ball and go right down the field in a playoff game against a non-existent Eagles defense. Just lost. Absolutely lost. So
you've loved that word, and it fit.
It has to get better. It can't get worse.
It shows up.
That's the whole. Both coordinators getting hired didn't really move my needle necessarily. That doesn't mean much, but for me, it wasn't like I was pumping my fist and going, "All right, we're back." But the thing I kept coming back to is it can't be worse than what I watched last year, and not even the 10-1 start, because the 10-1 start was great and all that, but like. Come on, we came in every day going, all right, when are the real Eagles going to show up? This doesn't look like the Eagles that we saw last season. There are holes, and there's problems defensively. They can't get to the quarterback, and the offense looks stagnant, looks high schoolish and pedestrian. And then they got broken, and they never recovered. And that's why we were sitting there after a Tampa Bay Bucs game going, man, that was embarrassing. They didn't even show up.
See, that's the thing is that, did anybody else not show up for a playoff game this year? Because Bob had said before the playoffs, could they be the worst team of the 14 that made the playoffs?
There's no question in my mind they still are.
I think you can make a case for the Browns, but even them, like the
Browns was bad, but they had Joe Flacco, their fourth-string quarterback.
The Browns didn't expect anything in that.
I think the Eagles ended up being.
I think Joe Flacco would have thrown for 450 against the Eagles.
And I scoffed, Bob, at you thinking that I didn't think that they were – I thought they were one of the maybe 4 bottom teams, maybe 5. I never thought they were the worst. But now that we've seen the entirety of how the playoffs played out, they were probably the worst team that anybody saw play. They were lost. They were completely –
There's an argument to be made they were the worst team in football come week 17.
Or gave up. And that's another thing that
makes you terrible also.
That would piss me off worse, is if it ends up being that, hey, we sort of just gave up. We're tired of the coaches, tired of things. Because to me, I do think it reeked of unprofessionalism down the stretch. Their approach, their handling of everything, it just, there was an unprofessional air to it all.
I mean, it was almost the definition of What is it to keep doing something over and over again? Insanity. It was insanity that other teams did the same exact things against the Eagles, and they didn't do anything to stop it. Nothing.
Well, they had no plan.
No,
and that's the one thing that you got to hope with the new coordinators that would never happen, because now there's no reason to think that's going to happen. That Kell Moore is going to come in here with this talent, and that he's going to come in here and he's not going to be. He has been a consistent top 5, top 7 offense as an offensive coordinator. He's had a ton of talent to deal with, but he's got a ton of talent to deal with here. But it's going to be, where's his relationship go with Jalen Hurts? How much can he get out of Jalen Hurts? How much can he help Jalen Hurts rebound?
Yeah, it all starts and stops there, because Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, they don't matter much if Jalen Hurts isn't playing well. So, yeah, that's your first and foremost thing that you have to address offensively. But, man, if you're any offensive coordinator in this league with a couple years' experience, if you weren't calling whoever, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni, 7 times a day saying, hey, I'm still here.
Can I fax you something?
Would love to come work for you. Well, then you're nuts, yeah.
I mailed my resume, but I'm willing to fax it, too.
I'll walk it over to I'm outside your door right now, as a matter of fact. Can I come in?
Hey,
yeah, that's how I would. Honest to God, that's how I would have been if I was an offensive coordinator.
You would have shown up at NovaCare?
I maybe
with a sign
in the parking lot. I might have said, "Hey, I heard you made coffee for those guys that had a sign."
Nick would have bought you coffee.
I'll make a sign if you want, just to cut. Like, I just need to meet with you. I would have been knocking down doors to head up this offense with all the talent that they have.
That's why I think Kell Moore probably chose this team. Is because if you were an OC and you look at possible landing spots, I don't know one better than Philly.
Cleveland, they said, was one, and it was weird because Washington wasn't interviewing him, but Washington had him on a list of like.
Okay, so there you go, right? Washington. Who are you picking?
They're getting a new
offensive coordinator, Washington or
right,
Philly?
Exactly.
Okay, that's an easy choice. Even Cleveland or Philly. Deshaun Watson has not looked like Deshaun Watson in Houston since he's gotten to Cleveland. He's looked hit or miss at times.
And you're playing for a coach you'd be working with a coach who has his own offensive plan.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
you come here, you don't even have a boss, right?
You don't.
All right, I'm going to be offensive coordinator. Nick, what do you have for me?
He might stop in some
not
meetings.
much, man. Go ahead. It's all you. Cool.
Hey, Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com for flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. The question is, how excited are you for Super Bowl 58 matchup? And Pat wants to know if this is a villain situation. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Eagles.
did have one of those cookies for breakfast. And then I had to have a small second one. That was good, Bob. MBG's the best.
She's all right.
That's good. It takes the sting off of the Eagles not going to Super Bowl 58.
WOTD.
What is WOTD, Bob?
What other teams do doesn't matter in my book at all. And it was
really
funny
doesn't.
because
I like that.
A lot of guys were saying the same thing that you're saying, John. Like, oh, man, watching them go there, that really hurts. I don't, and I was going to ask Pat because I don't know what his situation was as far as this went. But, yeah, if the 49ers won and, oh, my God, the Chiefs won and the Eagles beat the Chiefs, and this, I don't. I like the season. The Eagles' season ended, and they sucked. And they were worse than Tampa Bay, who sucks. And that's where it ended for me. I didn't look at it like, oh, my God, look at the team going to the Super Bowl. The Eagles beat them at their place on a Monday night this year. No, I didn't go there. But did you, Pat? Like, did this weekend have Eagles feelings for you?
Not really.
No?
Because
I thought
didn't
they would
lose.
for you.
They didn't lose last week, so not particularly. I wouldn't really think about the Eagles too much.
Are you
and
dull
like, man,
to
they
the
should.
pain?
Probably a little bit. I've kind of accepted it. I mean, they didn't lose a close one, gentlemen. They lost an ugly one. They got smacked around. Wasn't all that close. It was against a bad opponent, and it just showed me, okay, if they did end up going to Detroit the next week, they would have gotten absolutely hammered. So we looked at it before the game, and me and John particularly said, okay, we think they'll win, but it'll be a close one. Bob, you were the exact opposite. You said, I think they lose this Tampa Bay team. Everything that I've seen leading up to this has shown me they're one of the worst teams of football. Well, you were right. But even if me and John had been right, nothing told us that they were going to go to Detroit and win. So they just really got exposed, and they showed us what they really were. And because of that, I didn't watch any football this weekend going, man, if the Eagles were in one of these games, they would have won. No, they wouldn't have. But they would have gotten crushed.
That's a good point. That is a really good point. Had the Eagles been close, then, yeah, maybe I would have thought about them. But I told you, the only times that really passed my mind were how my sister down in Baltimore was feeling after getting so close and losing. I didn't have that feeling after the Eagles lost to Tampa Bay because I didn't have any comments they were going to beat Tampa Bay. So I really didn't. I didn't look at these games and
I looked at it as
think of the Eagles at all.
Like last weekend, watching Tampa Bay play at Detroit. And, there was every reason to believe, well, if they win the one game, they won't win the other. Tampa Bay had the ball in their hands with a chance to go down and be able to go up against Detroit. And Baker Mayfield in the last possession threw an interception, and it was over. They played them much tougher. Detroit played a much better game against San Francisco than they played against Tampa Bay at home, which was weird. And I don't know if that was the weight of expectations on their shoulders with the home crowd and wanting to get to the NFC title game and everything. But to me, I can't help do the what-if game. It's so funny, Bob. You don't WOTD means nothing to you. And I swear it means way too much to me. Like I looked and said, well, Chiefs made the Super Bowl. Chiefs were 11-6. Eagles were 11-6. Eagles beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Oh, and the Chiefs beat Miami along the way to go to the Super Bowl. Eagles beat them. Chiefs beat Buffalo. Yep. The Eagles beat them. It just made my stomach sicker about what's happened with the Eagles. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse.
Well, that's why
about
you shouldn't
the wasted
think about
opportunity.
it, John. Why would you think of something that doesn't make you feel well?
Because I'm stupid. Bottom line, I'm stupid.
So for me personally, I don't look at this season as a wasted opportunity necessarily because I felt like they had holes throughout the entire year and they finally the dam broke. I mean, yeah, they were 10-1, but every single week we came in going, they don't look the same. This went wrong. That went wrong. They found a way to win, and that is great, and that's the most important thing, but they just didn't look right doing it. They weren't crushing teams like the year before. And eventually, it was like the housing market. It collapsed, and it was ugly. So I think if this were to be a year where they looked like last year's team, crushing everybody, and then an injury happened, like a Carson Wentz type, quarterback out for the season, you got to return your backup. I would have looked at that as a what-if year. This year, no, man, they got exposed. They got exposed for the flaws that they had, and the flaws that they had, they couldn't overcome. And they tried. They made, the Kevin Byard trade. Didn't work. They switched coordinators. Didn't work. Did Sirianni have a hand in the offense? Who knows? But it didn't work. Nothing that they did to try to fix it worked. And they talked about trying to fix it. but it never worked.
Yeah, when you're so far removed from something, do you really think about it all that much? Like you get done vacation, say you're going to Punta Cana or something like that.
Yeah,
and you get done vacation or it's coming up to it, you're thinking about it a lot.
Every day.
You haven't been there for a couple of years and you're not going for a couple of more, you're not thinking about it an awful lot. Like the Eagles didn't play good football, playoff football, no kind of football for the last 7 weeks. So to me, it just wasn't there, so I didn't think about it. Yeah.
The Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com and get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. I'm going to tell you, Bob, it's too much with me as a fan. Way too much. I get caught up in the what ifs and if this had happened and this had gone, but it did give me the fact that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl and the Eagles did beat the Chiefs and two other teams they beat to get to a Super Bowl. It did say to me, stop overreacting to the collapse. It was crappy as hell, but don't overreact too much and just say, well, this team is horrendous going forward. It's not as bad potentially as you think it is, or I've made it out to be in my head. And that could be a case too, that I've made it out to be worse than it was.
What would you rather have? What we saw, right, where that playoff game that we watched was over pretty quickly.
Yes.
They got exposed. They looked down the stretch like they were one of the worst teams in football, and they kind of proved that. Would you rather have that or what the Lions just dealt with?
I'd rather it be where the Lions are because I'd have more faith for 2024.
Okay.
I mean, right now, but the thing is, I'm already trying to turn the page. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, and it was the idea that I wasn't turning the page, Pat. I was dwelling on, well, they beat this team, they beat that team, and they're going to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I couldn't get there because I
don't blame you.
But it might be a loser mentality, but you go with like, do you want the heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss where you're right there and you're facing adversity, you're on the road, you're facing one of the best teams in football, and you're an underdog in the game, 7.5-point underdog in the game, and you're up by 17, and it looks like you'll cruise to your first Super Bowl in forever, and then the bottom drops out. I'd almost rather have the game where I can go, all right, I can accept the defeat in like the third quarter because it ain't happening.
It's the greatness of sports. I know I've talked about my family today. I got family in Baltimore. They're hurting today. They're hurting big time today.
Oh,
We're
yes.
not. We're not. I had an enjoyable Sunday yesterday. I went to a great high school game, went and had a couple beers with my boys, went home, had a great dinner, watched the game with absolutely nothing invested. They're hurting today. Would you rather be them than us? That's the yin and the yang of sports, and that's what I love about it. I love the march to it. You're going to get either euphoria or disappointment. Once you accept that, John, and I'm trying to help you here.
No,
once you accept that, then life is easier. Then you don't get the sickness in your stomach and all of these crazy thoughts that you have.
Life being easier, you're right. But I also think, in my heart of hearts, you get over it too fast. I wish I had more of that. You're like Nikki Foles. She can be mad 1 minute and then she's playing with the squeaky blue dog in a second. She has the memory of a dog. She's happy.
What's more fun to do? Be upset or be happy?
Oh, no questions asked.
Yeah.
It's the wiring. I can't help the internal wiring.
Yeah, well,
unless I get an electronics expert in here.
That's a good point.
Lewis joins us on the Fanatic. Lewis, good morning.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good,
hey,
buddy.
Lewis.
I was just thinking about this. You know what's one of the biggest problems with keeping Sirianni in the position that he's in, and the fact that he doesn't call plays, he's not really over the offense like that. If let's say Kell Moore comes in and does a great job and he's gone, you know who really impacts is Jalen Hurts. I mean, for a young quarterback, and he's still a young quarterback, to go through a carousel of coordinators is not good. I mean, you look at the team. The one thing about Andy and Patrick Mahomes is, and you have Belichick and Brady, and you had Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. You have that consistency of having that same coach, and it's different with Belichick because he's a defensive guy. But I'm telling you, I don't like that. The fact that he's going to be, going through, might be going through coordinators every 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, no, it would be a real problem, but it would be It would sort of be a good
terminology, philosophy.
It'd be sort of a good problem to have, though. If they bounce back next year and Kellen Moore, if Kellen Moore is a head coach next hiring cycle, then that means something went really, really right in 2024.
Yeah.
They had a really good year.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, we're talking about Brian Johnson maybe getting a job elsewhere. And
I can't
wouldn't
believe that, by
consider
the
that
way.
offense a really good year. Yeah, if he moves on, I'll make this statement. The best thing, it can't be the best thing for the Eagles. I was going to say the best thing for the Eagles is if Kellen Moore's next coaching position is here, but that means something bad happened here with the Eagles. 34-year-old you're bringing in. If he has a really good year, he's probably not here for more than that, right? If Kellen Moore comes in here and has a great season, he's probably a head coach somewhere.
If they make it to divisional playoff weekend next year, if they win a division, and then even if they make it to a divisional playoff game or NFC title game, he's probably gone. He's probably gone.
Yeah,
because I don't think the defense is going to carry them.
The caller brings up a really good point, though. This would be, figure Alabama, Oklahoma, and then Doug's first year, Sirianni's first year. Like, he's had, 5 different coordinators?
In 6 years.
It's unbelievable, yes.
And then that would be the 6th coordinator in 7 years?
So do you want to have
Tough.
So do you want to hire a less qualified guy in order to be able to keep him?
I don't know about less qualified, but I might have leaned more towards the veteran Vic Fangio type that has no aspirations of being a head coach anymore, but I don't know who that guy is. I don't have a name for you.
Yeah.
It's certainly not Eric Bieniemy. He still wants to be a head coach. Don't blame him. I mean, most guys want to be the groom. They don't want to be the groomsmen.
That's a great mystery to me, Pat.
What?
The Bieniemy story.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It's weird.
It's still an incredible mystery.
He's
kryptonite.
Yeah.
Bizarre. And if there weren't a ton of African American candidates getting jobs, getting promoted, having success, I don't know where. There's no case to be made that it's anything racial. Because there's enough candidates who are less accomplished than him even.
Yeah, I don't. It's bizarre, but to the point, I don't know if I have a name for you of like a veteran OC, great mind. I was a little bit surprised. I'll tell you that Frank Reich wasn't brought in for an interview because I think a lot of us thought initially when the process started that Frank Reich would be your OC because of the relationship that Nick Sirianni has with him. But that goes to what you said earlier, John. This wasn't Nick Sirianni's hire,
and he has, I believe, $29 million coming to him.
Oh, Frank? Yeah, for $29 million, I'm sitting on a beach.
He's got. I would never. I'd be done.
I'm going to Pirate Island.
I got fired twice in 11 months in the NFL, and I got embarrassed with this one, which is a joke. He never should be fired 11 games into his career. That was ridiculous.
That was strange.
With Carolina.
Yeah.
And from all
accounts,
accounts,
like he's a defensive coordinator and they're 10-3 or anything like that.
And from all accounts, nobody thought he was a bad dude or a bad force in the building. They just didn't like what was going on, the owner.
Yeah, I was interested in this. So I tried to tie, and I don't know if I successfully did it, but I just put it out there for thought, that the way that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman spend money, or lack thereof, on linebackers, on safeties, on DBs, whatever, lends them to hire a coordinator that's a bend-don't-break guy, right? I threw that out there a couple of weeks ago just to see what you guys thought of it and all that. Now they bring in Kellen Moore to see. I wonder if he doesn't run the ball a whole lot.
No, in fact, it's been a problem. It's something we're going to have to watch out for.
And where do the Eagles not really like to spend money on the offensive side of the ball?
Running back.
Yeah. Are they all tied in together?
Might give you a message.
It's interesting.
Hey, let's see what T-Love has to say. T-Love, good morning, buddy. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. I was just, I caught the tail end of some of the conversations, and I was just thinking to myself, I'd much rather be Detroit and suffer that loss, as grueling as it was, than to suffer the last few games that the Eagles played. I mean,
it shows you're in a better spot, right, T?
Well, you got to figure now. They actually played a great team. We went down to Tampa Bay and lost to a team we should have beat easily. The last 3 games of the season, we should have won those games. I have no confidence in Nick Sirianni. I'm starting to go back to doubting Howie Roseman again. We're 1 game out of the Super Bowl. This year was a year that we all thought that we could do something, accomplish something with smoke and mirrors. To lose 6 out of the last 7 and then lose to the teams that we lost to, there's nothing more embarrassing than that. Detroit, hold your head up because you did a lot better than we did.
I think they had a much better year than we did, T-Love. I'll give you that. Today would be painful, though. Today would remind me of, I think that loss would be as painful as the 2002 NFC title loss to Tampa. Even though that was the closing game, even though that was the closing game of the vet, and it was at home, you're up 17. You're up 17 at halftime. You could have been up 17 in the third quarter if your coach just kicks a freaking field goal.
I'm trying to think of like the gut-wrenching losses. Last year's loss to Boston was really bad. Like that did a number on me.
But Game 6 was the loss, right?
Yes, but you knew you had at least a chance in Game 7, right? Like it's not, the series isn't over, and what are the odds you lose through 3 straight games or whatever it was, 2 straight games? Well, you do. You end up getting, like, you were never in that game. You were never in Game 7.
Nothing hits me like a loss in Boston.
It sucks.
Sixers loss
and
in
it's
Boston.
To that team.
You talk about moving on. That takes me longer than anything. I can't stand the Celtics fans. I can't stand. It's all from being a little kid and what I followed and all like that. Now, it'll take me all of maybe 5 minutes to get over that. Where an Eagles loss, I turn off the TV and it's done.
Okay, now wait a minute, though. That's strange to me because shouldn't you be conditioned by now to say, I know if I touch the oven, the top of the stove, it's going to burn me with the Sixers. Sixers are giving you 4 decades of that, whereas the Eagles give you a lot of great moments. 2 of the last 7 Super Bowls, constantly in the mix to get to Super Bowls.
Eagles have gotten me 1 championship and so have the Sixers in my lifetime. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
Wow.
Think about it.
I don't look at them the same. I don't look at them.
I just hate it. My hate for Boston for being a little
sucks.
kid.
Well, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's we sit here and talk about Philly sports sucking. I don't know what hurt more though, the Boston loss last year or the Atlanta loss, because the Atlanta loss, you were in that game, and that goes back to the kind of the situation we find ourselves in now with the Eagles, and comparing it to the Lions. The Lions were winning that game, they were in it, they had it, and then they choked. The Sixers choked in a series, but they were never in Game 7. And then in the Atlanta game, they should have won that game. It wasn't a situation
they should have won it over and over again.
Last year in Game 7, Sixers Celtics, you could have turned that off at halftime when it ain't happening. They're getting shot out of the gym right now. But in a game where you're in it and it's going down to the wire and it's ripped from you, man, those are character building losses right there.
Character building.
That's
the truth. No, it is the truth.
You're either going to become a diehard fan after that one, or you're just going to go, you know what? This whole sports thing ain't for me. I think I'm going to get really heavy into politics and painting.
I like what you said, though, there, because, Pat, I was looking at you strangely going, character building? The Sixers should have the best character, but you're talking about the fans. You're talking about from a fan standpoint.
The fans-wise, that's going to put calluses on the soul.
Hey, the 9 o'clock hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. For details, go to Bagster.com. So Bob thinks, the Celtics are an all-time villain in this town. And I think that, especially, Bob, for our generation, it really is a terrible, terrible scar. But, Pat, you think that there's a chance the Chiefs are taking a bit of a turn?
I think a lot of the majority of America is going to be rooting against the Chiefs. I think they are the most annoying, insufferable team in the NFL.
You think they're just tired of the Chiefs?
I think part of it is they're worn out by the Chiefs, yes. We're always looking for, the next thing. And everyone was cheering for Brady when his first Super Bowl, but by the 4th, you're like, all right, dude, can we get something else here? So you get tired of the same thing, and I think that there is definitely, a lull with the Chiefs in terms of, excitement level. But that team itself is just annoying. You know what I mean? Isaiah Pacheco runs for 2 yards, and he acts like he busted a 60-yard gain every single time he rushes the ball. Pat Mahomes looking for a flag every single time someone sneezes on him. Travis Kelce, I'm sorry, I know the Kelce's and all that. I'm done with Travis Kelce. He's annoying as hell. Him and his little girlfriend, and I got to see her in the box. And that's another thing is the T Swift angle of it. The Mahomes family in general with Brittany and Jackson Mahomes and all that. They're just annoying to me. They're incredibly annoying. But on the flip side, I look over at the 49ers, and I don't find them much more likable either. This is a really annoying Super Bowl to me. This is just a very unlikable Super Bowl. But I'm wondering if I'm alone in the sense of like the only person I like on the Chiefs at this point is Andy. And if I'm looking for a reason to root, I'll root for Andy. But man, the idea of having to watch Taylor Swift down on the field celebrate a Super Bowl, and even though she's sitting there 7 months ago talking about she's a diehard Eagles fan, yeah, that's gonna piss me off. It's gonna just annoy the hell out of me. I don't really want that. I don't want Isaiah Pacheco running for a mediocre 4-yard gain and acting like he just, busted a 90-yard run. Pat Mahomes looking for flags every single play.
Oh, he's
like it's just that the team has become insufferably annoying and they're overexposed. And I don't blame the NFL for doing that. If I had the monster that is T Swift and the T Swift Nation, I'd be exposing the team left and right. Okay. Relax there, bud. She's not my type. I'm going to say it. She's not my type.
I agree with you, by the way.
Is jealousy overcoming annoyance, or is it all just annoyance?
I guess partly I'm jealous. I'd like the Eagles to be in the Super Bowl this year as opposed to not. But no, I can separate the two. I can separate the talent from just the annoyance factor. And the Travis Kelce has really taken over the Gronk spotlight of like, who's the kitschy tight end who's really outspoken and fun, and let's put him in every commercial. And then you add on the T Swift angle. It's like in society we have separation of church and state. I need separation of NFL and T Swift, and I'm never going to get it at this point if they continue to date. But it's too much. Every time every time he does anything, I got to look in the camera is showing the box with her freaking out as if she was there when Brody Croyle was slinging the rock for the Chiefs. Like, get real.
Yeah,
she's the definition of a bandwagon hopper.
Nice
I mean, the Chris Brown song "Loyal" was written about her because she ain't loyal at all.
Well, she wasn't messing around with Brody Croyle.
She's blankmatized. That's what she is. I can't say the word because of FCC regulations, but it's absurd. It's a very annoying game to watch because I just want to watch the game, and it's all the other crap that is the distraction. And I feel like this Chiefs team was made for the people that only watch Super Bowl for the commercials.
And it's funny, the way the game started yesterday, so I'm out with my boys, and we're watching the pregame or whatever, and they're showing, did you see the pregame stuff where Kelce, led by Kelce, starts moving the kicker stuff for
Justin Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker's stuff, just to like moving his helmet and doing different things like that. Just for, like, annoyance sake.
Well, Tucker was supposed to be gone, though, wasn't he? I thought he was supposed to be gone.
Come on. It's a kicker. You have a full field. You can move over a couple of feet. But look, what I liked about Kansas City yesterday, and Pat, almost everything you said right there, I agree with. What I did like about Kansas City yesterday was they had a game plan, and that was to come in and try to bully the bully. Yeah. And you saw it. It was chippy early, and Kansas City started most of it. And your boy Kelce was in on a majority of it. Later hits. Pushing and shoving after, just stuff. You could tell that Kansas City came in with the attitude of, we got to push the bully in the face right away. And, yeah, as innocuous as moving a kicker stuff out of the way beforehand, but it led to pushing and shoving. I think Kansas City, I agree with you, Pat, on all that stuff. The one football thing I liked by them yesterday was having a game plan of, these are the bullies, this is their house, let's punch them in the face first.
That's the thing, like, football-wise, for the most part, I'm fine. Right. As I talked about, like, their little antics. Like, Pacheco might be the most annoying running back in football.
He's annoying.
It's like, dude, just stop. All right, enough. You ran for 4 yards, and you barely did that. But he's a decent running back. And that's the thing. Like, you look at these players I'm complaining about. Kelce, best tight end in football. Pat Mahomes, best quarterback in football. Pacheco, really good running back. And I loathe them because it's all the other crap that they do. I mean, for Travis Kelce, it's getting laid, and the other two guys, it's on the field crap. But it's just it takes away from the, oh man, this is a really good team for me, to, oh god, I can't stand these guys. They're so annoying.
I'm like disappointed in Mahomes.
He's morphed into a baby.
Cry. Yeah, it's like every damn play, and sometimes guys don't realize they're doing it, but somebody's got to tell him, like, dude, shut up. Well, you just shut up.
I mean, he really is becoming. Now, the thing is, though, do you say the same thing when you watch LeBron James? Because LeBron is a huge, because they're both superstars of the same level, right?
Yeah, I don't get as annoyed with LeBron.
Because LeBron is a crybaby for every call.
I don't get as.
Patrick Mahomes, I'm sorry, has to grow a little bit more to get on LeBron James's level, but go ahead.
I don't get annoyed with LeBron necessarily because I feel like basketball as a whole is just a whiny sport. I mean, there isn't a foul.
That has turned into that, hasn't it?
There isn't a foul that is called without the guy going up to the referee going, "What? Me? What did I do? What did I do?" Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, you should be put up for second-degree assault. That's what you did. Like, for the most part, every single foul, you will, and this is, by the way, with hockey, too, because most penalties, it's like, you'll never see a player go, yeah, all right. The only time that they will throw their hand up and go, it was me, was if it's the superstar they're worried about being called for the foul, where they want to make sure, hey, that was me. I'll take the foul. I don't want to get him in foul trouble. So that's mine. Ref, I did it. I'm guilty. Other than that, if it is a superstar or even a mediocre player, a nice role player, let's say Tobias Harris, and they get called for a foul, immediately it's, how? Me?
Right.
And so that's sport as a whole. Maybe I don't notice LeBron doing it as much because I just see it every play, whereas football, I don't see it every play. And with Mahomes,
it's everything.
I'll tell you what, you yell at him in a vicious tone, and he's looking for a flag.
And what bothers me more than anything is when you see professional athletes complain or fake injury, as in soccer or all that, is when it just filters down to younger kids playing. I can't stand that. I can't stand watching 10 and 12-year-olds going on the ground, writhing in pain in soccer, and then standing up and running around the next minute because they see that's what the pros do. Yesterday, I'm at a high school game, and a couple of kids screaming at a referee afterwards, and I'm looking like, who the hell are you at 15, 16 years old to be yelling at an adult like that? Or like a kid makes it 3 and gives it the, come on, get up, to what, the 250 people sitting there? I mean,
well, did you get up?
Where you want it? Did you get up or did you not?
He was on the other team.
Oh, so you hated
Great,
him.
really, really good player. Actually, it's the brother of the girl that is the star at Notre Dame. Was the National High School Player of the Year last year.
Hidalgo?
Hidalgo. He played against Camden Catholic yesterday. His sister went nuts on Saturday night against Connecticut, had like 34. But anyway,
you missed that, Pat, right?
This kid's a great player. At one point, he hit a 3 and gave it the old, like, let's go. And I just chuckled to myself saying, the 150 people here that are rooting for your team should get up right now. But he's really, really good. And it was, I'll tell you, we talk about how you feel sporting events. I literally was texting with the coach of my old high school last night saying, I've been to thousands of sporting events, doing what I do for a living. Nothing is better than what yesterday was. And it was going to a high school game on a Sunday afternoon, seeing a great basketball game, surrounded by a bunch of people that you know, that you like, that you enjoy, and going out and getting a couple beers afterwards. Like, to me, there's no better day in sports than that.
That's awesome. I mean, it's good. And I sort of put a big bow on this today with, I wish I had Bob Cooney's sports memory. I wish I had your sports memory as far as put it behind you, move on, worry about the next thing. Because it's just, this Eagles season has stained me. And it scarred me. But I'm trying to move to 2024.
It scarred you?
Yeah, this is the worst. This is a horrendous.
Yeah.
A horrendous, horrendous scar on the franchise, I think. I really do.
But no, forget the franchise, yeah. But you?
Oh, no, as a fan, this is a fan memory. That loss to Tampa Bay scarred me. This is one that will leave a mark.
I can't really criticize that comment because I was cooked after the Sixers lost to Boston the way they did.
Yeah, well, guess that. This is going to leave a mark.
That took months to get over. And even then, there's still a piece of me that's that little voice in my head going, it's going to happen again. They're not going to get out of the second round. They're going to face off against Boston. And you're going to have to watch Al Horford. You're going to have to watch Jason Tatum and his perfect hairline.
And you're going to have to hear about it.
I don't like it.
And you have to hear about it.
You know it's bad when you find reasons to dislike players. Like, that's when you know, like,
his
there's real sports
bothers you?
And, with his perfect shape up just bothers the hell out of me, and I don't blame him for having it, but I don't like Jason Tatum, and I don't like his hair, and I don't like how Al Horford looks like a tortoise.
He does look like a tortoise. Hey, check out Support Life-Saving Cancer Research. Join us and our generous partner, the Davis CPA Group. That's Ron, the tax man. And make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR, because cancer research saves lives. By the way, you can start submitting your taxes today. Your tax returns if you wanted to. If you've got money coming back, grab on it. Hey, Andrew Salchunas is going to take you through the morning. Wonder what he's thinking about the Super Bowl matchup and the hiring of Kell Moore. You'll hear about it all afternoon.